Good afternoon to all of you. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this seminar on entrepreneurship successes and lessons for innovators, job creators, startups, and small business growth. As you all see, this is really to celebrate the Global Entrepreneurship Week. And we, as a body, actually, the CMA Sri Lanka COVID-19 SME Development Committee. Now, this is a special committee that we set up to help the SME sector, and that's why we thought that we should use this seminar on the entrepreneurship successes to bring the small business sector in. So that was one of the main reasons we brought it in, and we are very happy that both CMA Sri Lanka and CPM Sri Lanka have been able to host this. CMA on the one hand is doing on the management accounting area, whereas CPM is the chartered professional managers and helping the managers. And currently they also run a program on entrepreneurship and management. So they have real common grounds on which they can run this, and they are also connected. So today's, I must first of all thank all our speakers and panelists because they have readily agreed to attend and speak at this seminar that we are having, because they are really people who have experienced, they are all innovators, they are job creators, and also has started as the startups, and with very good ideas, and they have come ready to give their stories in order that those who are participating will be able to benefit by it. So this is one of the main reasons that we have done this. But I thought that I just would like to say a few things on the entrepreneurship. If you really talk of entrepreneurship, it is at the heart of every business, where you can find that every large company has started as a small business and led by entrepreneurs. So even companies that are maybe 150 years old or maybe 200 years old, or when you look at it, it's really due to people, the entrepreneurs who have started these. We need entrepreneurial management to take entrepreneurial knowledge and utilizing it for increasing the effectiveness of new business venturing, as well as small and medium-sized businesses. So it's really required for both the large ones, the small ones, and also the growing ones. So you have, actually, I was looking at this, we have now, you must be wondering whether we are all having only the business type who are really making profit. But I just realized that I have gone on a journey, and which is a little different from the successful business entrepreneurs who are here today. So maybe we have the business entrepreneurs, and I classify the others as social entrepreneurs. So I was really looking at this. If you really look at it, now today our two organizations, if you look at CMA and CPM, they are also set up by entrepreneur, you know, this because I was looking at how the history of this social entrepreneurship in the professional education area. Because I just thought that I will just tell you a few things which I now only realized that I have achieved in this field of social entrepreneurship. Now, I was the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka. At that time, there was a need to set up what is called a middle-level accounting body, called the accounting technician body. But then there was a lot of protests from various people as to whether the Chartered Institute should do it, and then others wanted to do it. Then the Asian Development Bank, actually it resulted from a study they have done where they said that they are short of 12,000 accounting technicians in the country. So as the chartered accountants, as the prime body for the accounting profession, we were looking at it, and of course ultimately they decided that they should set this up. So what happened, of course, I finished, then they appointed me and another number of council members to govern this new body. And of course, I finished, I had a 2-year term, of course, two-year terms of 4 years, and I finished my term. And then they just gave me a book and said, okay, you can go and do anything with this. At that time, the ADB had promised 800 million rupees to the government. Then we were really senseless. Now, actually, I got this book, and the chartered accountant said, "We can't give you any money. We can't give you any office space. We won't give you anything. If you want, you can go and do anything with it." But as a maybe a social entrepreneur, which I really not thought at that time, but I was fully determined, and we set up this body. We started working on it, you know. So really, what happened was we had to. There was a friend of mine, and we were in the OPA, a professional association, and another chartered accountant colleague. So he gave a small office room, and then the other members got together, and we really started really not a single cent. And then it was in 1987 that we started this. I'm just telling this story because it might be worthwhile for you all to see how you can be an entrepreneur in the education or professional education field. Now we set this up, then of course no money, then we got a few people who contributed some money to us. Then I was also chairman of a corporation at that time. I was also able to get some people to contribute some money, and then we started. So really now that was the real start, you know, but now I want to tell you what is the real situation of this company, of this institution. Their new student registration is 13,725. The number of students sitting the exams for a year is 26,205. The number passing out for a year is 2,596. Then if you look at their members, it's almost 6,000. Their income, 290 million. Their net income, 73.7 million. Total assets of 897 million. We started with zero. Then total funds, 755 million. Then you find that active students, about 29,000. Was we were able to do this, and then also save the foreign exchange for the country, and that's how the CMA really came into being. So that I just mentioned to you a little story before we start the whole thing. Nirmal, I thought that I should say this because only now I realize the real value of maybe I may be able to call myself a social entrepreneur, but what we have done benefiting the education field. And one thing is this, we really did not distribute any money because this is a non-profit making institution. So no profit was taken. So that's why today organizing this and celebrating the Global Entrepreneur Week, I think it's a real very good thing. But I'm sure all of you have very much better stories than me. But I thought that it will be a good start on the professional education field to give a good start. So with that, let me welcome everyone and thank everyone for accepting their invitation, my invitation. And I'm sure that you all will have good stories to tell, which will be good for the new business people, new startups, and also the small business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Vatawala. As always, very inspirational. And when you go back in time in terms of the impact that you've created, especially to the education segment, is something that we can really take heart. And I think there's a lot of gratitude that we need to have in terms of what you have contributed to Sri Lanka as a whole. Again, very good afternoon to everybody who's just joined us. Today, we are going to talk about entrepreneurial successes, lessons for innovators, job creators, startups, and small business growth. We got a fantastic lineup of keynote speakers, as well as it will be followed up with another set of panelists joining in for the panel discussion. Again, without further ado, let me now kindly invite Mr. Suresh Dimel, the Acting Managing Director of Global Entrepreneur Network Sri Lanka, who's done some wonderful work at the regions as well, and also supporting social entrepreneurship through various impact investment initiatives, to give you all a brief introduction about Global Entrepreneurship Week. Over to you, Mr. Dimel.
Thank you, Nirmal. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Professor Vatavella, for inviting me to participate at this timely and all-important event. I have had the great privilege of being a member of the CMA COVID-19 SME Development Committee, spearheaded by Professor Vatavella, with the participation of several eminent entrepreneurs and professionals. We have met online every week since last April, sometimes more than once a week, to identify and provide solutions to SME issues in Sri Lanka. Since a vast majority of our SMEs hail from the regions, we launched a regional SME development conference and seminar in Hambantota in September. With the participation and support of 9 commercial banks, the Hambantota International Port and Sri Lanka Telecom, we were able to have this flagship event at the Magampura Runa International Convention Center. The Honorable Prime Minister was the chief guest and participated together with 4 cabinet ministers and 2 state ministers, speaking to an audience of over 300 regional SMEs. We hope to have more conferences in the form of seminars or workshops in other parts of the country as well. I am also privileged to have this opportunity to launch the Global Entrepreneurship Week, which starts today, and to introduce GEW to you. Global Entrepreneurship Week is a celebration of the innovators and job creators who launch startups and bring ideas to life, drive economic growth, and expand human welfare. This week, each November, GEW inspires people everywhere through local, national, and global events. Global Entrepreneurship Week activities are Global Entrepreneurship Week inspires people everywhere. GEW activities from large-scale competitions and events to intimate network gatherings connect participants to potential collaborators, mentors, and even investors, introducing them to new possibilities and exciting opportunities. Millions of participants soak up advice and inspiration from the likes of Richard Branson, Michael Dell, Mohammed Yunus, and Jeff Hoffman. Thousands of brand new startups spring to life through training workshops and competitions. Hundreds of universities strengthen connections that help them commercialize research from their labs. Researchers and policymakers engage in discussions around the world to examine the underlying policies necessary to promote entrepreneurial growth. Serial entrepreneurs share their expertise through events such as local or national pitch competitions, where experienced entrepreneurs share their successes and challenges. Meanwhile, world leaders and local elected officials alike have embraced the GEW campaign by speaking at activities during the week, filming statements of support, or otherwise endorsing the national campaigns in their countries. GEW is more than just an awareness campaign. It is a platform for connection and collaboration, engaging all players along the entrepreneurship spectrum in strengthening ecosystems around the world. Diversity is a driver of innovation, and economies suffer if a group of people are underrepresented or face structural barriers. Global Entrepreneurship Week reaches beyond traditional startup hubs, envisioning one global entrepreneurial ecosystem open to all. I would like to quote the founder and president of Global Entrepreneurship Network, Jonathan Ortmans. The pandemic was tailor-made for a global response. It never got one. As we embark on the common post-pandemic mission of rebuilding our economies and recreating new jobs, it is imperative that nations work together in innovating our ways towards a more sustainable, inclusive, and equitable global economy. After all, national boundaries are as porous to innovation as they are to viruses. Plain and simple, economies suffer when people are left out. There are 4 themes of GW 2020 this year: education, ecosystems, inclusion, and policy. I am sure that our event today, titled Entrepreneurship Successes, Lessons for Innovators, Job Creators, and Small Business Growth, will cover all 4 themes of GW 2020. Before I leave, I would like to show you a short video clip to sum up my presentation. Can I share my screen?
That's permitted. Yeah, permitted. You
Yes,
can go
please.
ahead.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
Tell me when I can start the presentation.
Yeah, you can do now.
Okay.
Well, hello everybody. This Global Entrepreneurship Week, I wanted to take a moment to share a message of hope and encouragement. Entrepreneurs are the dreamers, the doers, and risk takers. They have the opportunity to transform society.
Yes, you might have to share the screen, Suresh.
And you know, when I started Virgin, the word wasn't really used back then. I was a young man with big dreams of creating
Suresh, we can't see anything.
and helped improve people's lives. When I first learned the word, I had to ask how to pronounce it. French was never.
Sir.
No, Suresh, we don't see it.
Can you hear can you see my screen?
Yeah. We can see the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you get the audio?
I think this is Dr. Pratunga Rajapaksa's screen. Yes. Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Rajapaksa?
Yeah, we can't see Suresh. Maybe you can start screen share.
Can you see a YouTube screen?
No.
No? Uh-oh. Shall I try to share?
Yeah, just go to screen share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, now it's coming. Yeah, please proceed.
Now,
Okay, super. Is it okay?
Yeah, fine.
Well, hello everybody. This Global Entrepreneurship Week, I wanted to take a moment to share a message of hope and encouragement. Entrepreneurs are the dreamers, the doers, and risk takers that have the opportunity to transform society for the better. I didn't even know that I was an entrepreneur when I started Virgin. The word wasn't really used back then. I was a young man with big dreams of creating businesses that solved problems and helped improve people's lives. When I first learned the word, I had to ask how to pronounce it. French was never my strong point. Everyone has the potential to become an entrepreneur and to create positive change in their communities. I'm proud to support the Global Entrepreneurship Network, a charity with a mission to make it possible for anyone, anywhere, to start or scale a business. They want to unearth the new generation of entrepreneurs to help figure out better ways of doing things, to create jobs and new opportunities in the wake of the pandemic. So if you've ever wanted to start a business, head over to the Global Entrepreneurship Network and check out all the great resources they have available. Cheers.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Suresh. If you can just exit from the screen share mode.
Yeah, just a minute. Uh-oh.
Just exit.
Just a minute.
You have to click stop share.
Yeah.
So until you get the technical things sorted out, so again, thank you very much to Mr. Dimel for the introductory remarks about the Global Entrepreneurship Network and Global Entrepreneurship Week. I'm also privileged to serve the Global Entrepreneurship Network local chapter in its board. And I know the amount of wonderful work which is done by Gen Global. So it's fantastic to see that CMA and CPM Sri Lanka has taken the lead in terms of kickstarting the week with a webinar of this nature. So as I said before, we have a wonderful set of keynote presenters with ideal gender balance, and we are going to hear some interesting stories from them. But prior to that, I thought of giving a little bit of context into what today's program is all about. As you know, the entire world today is facing the COVID-19 challenge, not only from an economic perspective, but from a health and a psychological perspective. During times like this, it is where the entrepreneurial resilience is called into question. And today's keynote presenters will probably give you all some ideas, tips in which they have done to overcome some of the challenges. Now, entrepreneurs, in my view, are problem solvers. They find innovative ways of solving real world problems. And from a Sri Lankan perspective, when we move towards a middle income country and towards the next phase of growth, I think the requirement for entrepreneurs is absolute necessity. Unfortunately for Sri Lanka, we have only 1 to 2% of our overall population serving as entrepreneurs. You compare that with Thailand, Vietnam, and some of the regional players in which we are competing, they are into double digits with a much more larger population. So the people who have actually been invited today are the movers and shakers. They have been able to take risks during tough times. And more importantly, they've had the perseverance to follow up with the entrepreneurial journey. No entrepreneur can say that they have never failed in their life. Obviously, instead of taking it as a failure, they've taken more and more risks and they've learned through the overall process. And at times, if you're an entrepreneur listening to this particular program, either on FB Live or the link that we've shared with you all, pre-registered link, you might have been feeling a little bit frustrated and also not knowing how to move forward with the current situation in the world. But that is where we've invited these panelists and keynote presenters to give you a sense of inspiration on how they've been able to overcome, not only now, but in the previous years as well, in going back into history, on some of the things that they've done to be successful. And by real definition, they are definitely successful entrepreneurs, not only in Sri Lanka, but at a global level. So I take this opportunity now to invite Mrs. Ramya Veerakon, a true testament to women's empowerment, a real success story. I'm sure inspiration to many women entrepreneurs and prospective entrepreneurs. She is the president of the National Chamber of Exporters and the chairperson of Ramya Holding. Mrs. Ramya Veerakon, absolute pleasure to have you today. And the floor is all yours for your keynote.
Thank you, Nirmal, for your introduction, and good afternoon to you all. And also, I must thank you very much for inviting me as a speaker at this webinar on entrepreneurship successes and lessons for innovators, job creators, startups, and small business growth, jointly hosted by the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka and the Institute of Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka, conducted by CMA Sri Lanka COVID-19 SME Development Committee. As a business personnel and a female entrepreneur in repute, I was asked to speak on the practical experiences encountered by me in establishing my business from a SME to large-scale entrepreneur. For some people, reading an inspirational book is enough for motivation to strive for achieving their goals. where others seek the guidance of a mentor to spur their drive for success. Therefore, I'm happy to share my experiences, how I start up the business, the concept and innovations I made, how I came across with financing, marketing, expansions, and the problems I faced, and how they were overcome. Also, the skill development of staff and management, etc. My entrance into the business was brought in 1973 as a batik manufacturer. I set up a small workshop at home with 4 employees initially. It was my hobby. Batik making proved to be a good source of income at that time. I didn't want to frame myself to a traditional batik manufacturer, and I wanted to present it in a different, creative manner. Therefore, my products had a uniqueness in every piece I made, and this innovativeness enabled me to reach the international market within a short period of time. Therefore, whoever wishes to establish oneself as a business person should be innovative and build your own brand for a long-lasting business career. By that time, my personal life was in a tragedy. I was a widow of 2 infant daughters when I lost my husband, Major Noel Virapon, during the insurgency in 1971. He was the first army officer killed in action. After his death, there were no noticeable changes in the attitude of some people towards me and my kids. I was helpless, but I was determined and motivated me to build a life for myself and my children, and I wanted to do it independently. At the beginning, my aims were simple. I only wanted have a house of my own and to set up my 2 daughters on their own feet, which was my primary concern as a mother right throughout my business career. In 1976, I ventured into the export market by attending trade fairs in European countries. There were many restrictions in travel abroad at that time. The foreign exchange permitted was very limited. I can remember we were allowed only the airfare and 10 days accommodation, which was £150 in 1976, allowed by the central bank, and where we have to earn 5% of our export income and reimburse to the central bank the amount of foreign exchange we we used. So it was a difficult task. We've been interviewed by the assistant controller of the the central bank, and so on and so forth. We had to undergo all those difficulties before we could embark into the foreign travel. So despite all these difficulties, I did not give up. I marketed my products by myself and worked hard to develop my business. By 1978, I diversified into exporting of handicrafts and also received the award of Best Exporter of Handicrafts on the Export Development in 1980. This is during the time late Honorable Lalit Mudali, who incorporated the Export Development Board. And that time I would like to mention, I did all the export documents typing with one finger, and that is how I made every once a week I used to come to Colombo with the consignment from Kurunegala, and I successfully managed to improve my exports in batiks and handicrafts. In 1979, I purchased a land in Kadawada and built a house and moved in 1982. I closed down my batik factory in Kurunegala and could no longer leave my two growing daughters alone at home when traveling abroad. I looked for another venture. I planned a handicraft complex and a showroom for tourists who passed by on Candy Road in Kadawada, which failed due to the communal riots in 1983. Tourism dropped and I had to look for other businesses. After experimenting with various projects, I finally settled on the garment industry in 1988. Starting off a new business venture was not easy at that time. Also, it was not easy to obtain a loan for the project, and I had to pledge my house and property which I bought from my batik's income as collateral. I received the bank approval for a loan of rupees 1.1 million in 1988, with which I began commercial production of apparels. In 1988, my business was incorporated as Ramya Apparels Private Limited with 35 machines and 54 employees. At the beginning, there were many hardships which I faced. No special discrimination as a woman. As in the case of a small-scale business person trying to establish oneself, there were many obstacles. I spent a lot of valuable time and energy trying to get through the red tape, obtain approvals, convince the bankers to push my case. It was only a matter of time. I succeeded in convincing the officials, the bankers, and also my family to believe in me. So I started with subcontracting to other exporters. And in this case, the merchandising, financing, all that work was done by me. I did not employ any staff in that area, only for production. I had about nearly 100 people by this time. So even there, the export documentation was done by me. Unlike today, the documentation was very complicated. Presently, it is only one document, the custom you pass, which is very simple. There, at that time, we had to go through quite a number of government officers to pass a set of export documents. So I must understand the financial support was not the only problem. As a single parent, I found it difficult to juggle my business and children's needs. Above all, I realized that no matter how successful you are, you never cease to be a mother, never cease to worry about the day-to-day welfare of your family. You certainly need to nurture and care. In 1990, my business grew enough to accommodate 100 machines. In 1994, I expanded further by establishing a factory in Katupata under 200 garment factory program, which was initiated by late Mr. R. Premadasa, the then president. I started this after his demise. So that time, the banks have denied of financing the garment industry. And here I would like to mention, I did not know who at that time, Mr. Lakshman Vatawala. He was the chairman of BOI. I went to BOI, I met him, and I asked him, you give me a location where you get 25,000 dozens quota closest to Kadawatha. He identified on the map, Ceylon, Sri Lanka map, and showed me where Katapatha, and it is in Kurunegala district and Variappala electorate is mentioned, so which I accepted, and he directed me to another staff officer to proceed with it. So at this time, when the banks were not giving loans to the garment industry, I borrowed from other financial institutions at a higher interest rate and completed the project without any political support. What made this endeavor even more rewarding was the fact that it was set up in a remote area where the poverty levels were unparalleled and the youth were revolting due to unemployment. I was able to get this project underway while uplifting the standard of living there. With my personal experience, I remember more than 3 decades ago, the interest rates of the banks were between 19 to 21%. Further, there were credit limits at the rate of 14 to 15%. At one stage, I had to borrow from a certain bank at the rate of 26% to complete this project. It may be a risk in your belief, but we still survived and evolved to the required standards. And I would mention here, in 1994-95, I faced a financial crisis due to the unproductive factory and the cancellation of orders from the Kadawatha factory, and also the funds were drained from Kadawatha factory and Indian fabric supply letting us down, where we got 440-foot containers of rejected fabric. So with all these things together, I went ahead and I mentioned to the banks the BOI. The BOI introduced a Korean company, and we were able to do under a management agreement, work with them to make soft luggage bags. And therefore, we were able, the Katapatha factory, we were able to revive and go ahead. And at that time, the global competition for exports was not so much as today. But I believe that I should be competitive to my product to sustain in the business.
Ms. Ramya, sorry to disturb you. We just check on the time. Maybe we have another 2-3 minutes.
Okay. Upgrades and quality products, and I believe that all SMEs should adhere aforesaid measures for the sustainability. There could be differences in the pathways, but the focus could be ultimate achievement. And also, I would like to mention that today I'm proud to say that we have a workforce over 5,000 with 5 garment factories. And also we have diversified for horticulture and export company, where we grow in 3 different nurseries and plantations, while utilizing latest technology with tissue culture production facility. And this was incorporated as Ramya Horticulture Private Limited. And also the next venture export were to ecotourism. At the initial step, we set up a boutique bungalow in Ambevela with the green concept and for the local and foreign guests, and who wish to see the tranquility of the nature. But here again, I must say that we are finding very difficult to get the approvals from the public sector to go ahead with this project. And also we went in to venture to retail sector by launching Aditi and Amari. The Aditi is the clothing line for high-end ladies wear. Amari emerged as a creative product in indoor plants for residences and offices, etc. With all these projects, I gained vast satisfaction in being able to improve the quality of life of my staff. Every year we improve and innovate by training and retraining our staff to maintain the quality of products at high standards and keeping up with current trends and outbound training programs to motivate them to keep fit and mindfulness in uplift their inner souls. I derive immense pleasure from providing more employment, especially for women, where 75% of the workforce. There are some who benefit indirectly from our business ventures, such as rural folk who has their life improved by development of infrastructure in the area surrounding our factories, and also who gain income by subcontracting and also as outgrowths in horticulture sector. However, it is important for SME to strive, build on their capacities and move forward from SME status to become a large enterprises in order to be competitive through economies of production and win over buyers by incorporating technical advancement, value additions, ethical practices, and good governance. The most important factor is human capital, that is human resources management, to ensure the well-being and motivation of the workforce. I'm a firm believer on this concept and practice it at my organization. So therefore, through all these, we have been able to contribute towards the socio-economic development of a country by improving the rural areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ramya. Again, another inspirational story for any want-to-be entrepreneur or existing entrepreneurs. Some of the things that I picked up from the keynote of Mrs. Virakon is that you need to be creative and different. You need to have simple aims and goals in life. And even in life, you might have different roles to play. You need to manage that. And then you need to look at collaboration and, more importantly, human capital management. So without further ado, let me go to Mr. Suranga Herath, who is the Chief Executive Officer of English Tea Shop, to basically start off with his keynote. And a small request to everybody, if you can mute your microphones who are attending, that will be much appreciated. Please mute your microphones. Thank you. So Mr. Suranga Herath represents the tea industry, a traditional export industry where Sri Lanka has a huge legacy and a brand name. Over to you, Mr. Herath.
Thank you, Nirmal. I'm hoping my screen is now visible to you all.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. After hearing out Mrs. Virakon, I'm wondering whether mine would even come close to that kind of a harrowing and a experience filled journey. But let me try. Right before we get on to English Tea Shop and to talk about our entrepreneurial journey, let me firstly thank Professor Vatawala for giving us the opportunity to talk amidst a set of very authentic entrepreneurs, people whom I personally admire quite a lot. So thanks so much for giving us that opportunity. He was very specific when he said, because I think I've participated in a number of sessions with him over the last so many years with CPM and CMA. And he knows I do generally touch quite a lot on theoretical aspects as well as international business practices. But this time he said, just talk about English Tea Shop. So hard task, but let me try. So before we get on to English Tea Shop, let me give you a little synopsis about the tea industry, in general. today, as well as I don't think much has changed over the last 20 years since I got into tea. The most predominant factor about the tea industry is that it has evolved over 150 years, one of the oldest standing industries for Sri Lanka. Things like its age-old auction system and the business platform has remained relatively unchanged, but has weathered the storms and have survived many a crisis. If you look at the way we pick, the way we produce, the way we trade, the way we pack and export, have been relatively unchanged for a long time. It's a close-knit family. I also personally get involved with the Sri Lanka Tea Board, the CTTA, the Ceylon Tea Roadmap. So we are a close-knit family. And I think the one thing common about the tea industry is that it's run by very passionate people who are in this business not just for the money, for something more significant, something much more meaningful and purposeful. So that really helps us work together and help the country go forward despite many a challenge. Even during COVID, the 150-year-old or 125-year-old auction system, the world's largest as well as the longest running auction system, went digital within just 2 weeks. And that was mainly thanks to the way the plantation sectors, the smallholder sectors, the private factory owners, the brokers, the exporters, and the whole gamut of players in the value chain have been working together. No other industry around the world could have, pivoted to something completely unknown, something completely digital, something that had run completely manual for over a century within a very short time frame. And thanks to that, even during COVID, the tea industry is standing strong. A little fact or a little bit about the statistics. At pre-COVID levels, we do export about $1.4 billion worth of tea a year, which is about 280 million kilograms. That was a 2019 statistic, and it has remained relatively unchanged over the last 5 years. So about a $5.30 average FOB earning for the so many years. Let me now get on to our story. So we look at our business as one which had two phases. The two phases being pre-2010, that is before we launched English Tea Shop, and then obviously the English Tea Shop era. I use this example quite often. I think the easiest way to, probably this is the most interesting thing about our story. There are a lot of other things that we might have done which are similar to many other entrepreneurs, many other businesses. But I guess if I'm asked as to what made us go places or successful, is this one slide. Which explains the complete shift from who we were to what we are now. Pre-2010, like many other tea businesses, we got into tea because we had expertise. We had Sri Lanka was well known for tea. We had generations of expertise, and we had a well established structure. And it was all about being different from one another. But then because of the way we play it, I don't think we can be a whole lot different to each other. And that's another story for another day. But very simply put, in 2001, we started off with a very small capital of 2 million rupees. We wanted to be different then. The way we made ourselves different was we went into different markets. So while 80% of Sri Lanka's tea exports are fragmented or concentrated, rather in 15 countries, and out of them, a majority are Russia and Middle East regions. We started off in the US. We set up our own business there, and we tried our own distribution. So we did quite a lot of things differently, and within 4 or 5 years, we were renowned in the industry for being a value-added player. And the other thing we said was we're not going into commodity. We will only do a proper value-added premium stuff. And then it was, as I think Nirmal also mentioned, it was all about learning. We made tons of mistakes. Before we realized the mess we got into, by 2010, we were packing 70-odd brands to 35 countries, which had about 5,000 products, and we were about a $12 million business, which is a fair size for a 100% value-added business, because there was no bulk, there was no commodity, everything was packed. And out of those 70 brands, about 10 were our own brands. To US, UK, and a few to Europe. Predominantly the countries that we exported, I think 90% was US and Europe. So we were quite different to, rest of the industry even then. We were winning a lot of awards as well, for our value addition, for our growth in value addition. But I guess when we look back at the whole thing, I guess what we were, what we became defined who we were, rather than a purpose really driving us forward with a proper business ambition and a strategy to back it. That's why I say that this slide is quite important and probably the most powerful story behind our success. This is very aptly explained by Simon Sinek in his book Start With Why, a huge inspiration personally for me as well. Well, what happened when we launched English Tea Shop was, why did we launch English Tea Shop? By 2010, we had gotten into a position where we had a significant number of problems. We were profitable, but we, all our numbers were showing different things because we're doing very different things to many different customer segments in, a number of different channels and markets. And our positioning didn't have coherence. Even in our own brands, the 10 own brands were, very different, starting from a very cheap, a range in Africa to a very super premium range in the US. So we couldn't really live up to any brand promise because there were too many brands. And then while, doing all that, we were, promising things to 60 other private brands, very premium brands in the UK, Netherlands, and it was all, going all over the place. And then the other big problem was, it's still valid today. After 150 years of the industry, we were unable to answer one question satisfactorily, and that is about the bottom of the pyramid. The people in the bottom of the pyramid are still left poor for choices and still left by and large, poor for income as well. Regardless of the fact that we've been working together to, bring in sustainability to their lives from a plethora of initiatives, both socially as well as environmentally. So that this was always a bother to me personally. And then I was blaming, the government, as most of us do initially. And then I was, finding scapegoats. But then, I think it was probably that blame which led to us to think, okay, what is stopping us from doing a proper brand, a unique brand? I put it on the commodity auction system, the one that I'm backing now, the one that we are working, so hard with our colleagues to develop and evolve. My respect to the auction system still remains, but I just wanted to be different. I said, why do, if 6-7 million kilograms are available through an auction system, commodity, in a commodity system to the whole world, what am I going to do out of it? Be a participant there, and then what is my story going to be? Compared to another one story. So I couldn't really make sense as to how a unique premium or a different brand could come out of a commodity auction system, because commodity auction system is good for one thing, and that is to supply ingredients for commodity or mainstream or mass multiple brands, not to do, uniquely different brands. And this is when, our discussion led to another, aha moment where someone said the only way to bypass the Sri Lankan auction system and to bypass some of those, stifling regulations that you complain about is to go organic. So going organic for English Tea Shop was not really because we saw a market or because we were agriculturalists or because we were experts in, organic. We were, none of them. Today, when I go out and talk, I generally say that I didn't even have the knowledge of agriculture, leave alone organic, at the tip of my, fingernails. We went organic just to bypass the system. Why? Because we realized that if we can pitch our farming story, and also we love Sri Lankan botanicals, herbs, not only just the Camellia sinensis, the black and green tea, but the entire gamut of Sri Lankan agriculture. And we knew that if we created the right kind of a story out of it, and if we had the courage to, just stop everything else we were doing and to build this one singular story, we would be able to, build something meaningful. And that's exactly what happened over the last 10 years. So while doing that, going organic was one thing. We realized the hard way that organic wasn't readily available in Sri Lanka. We were even colonized for our, agriculture. That was how powerful our agriculture was. Now, I'm talking of 2010. Today, I think everyone in this country is talking about the prowess of agriculture and the opportunity for agriculture under a COVID situation. But 10 years back, we went around, spoke of organic, and there was no natural inclination for that, no support for that. But we took a risk. So we defined ourselves as one company who's going to change the bottom of the pyramid, who's going to bring lifestyle choices to people, better income to people at the bottom of the pyramid. And how do you do that? Creating shared value. I'll get to that in a little bit. And then what we do today, again, you will see as we go on, hopefully, with the limited time we have. I might have to rush through some of these things because of the time available, but I'll make sure that I, give you the core concepts behind the brand, and then we can, if there is any questions later on, we can take them. So the one singular purpose that, if you don't see the middle part of this presentation, don't worry, that's just an illustration. The text there is not meant to be read. Focus on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. On the left-hand side is our purpose. The 70 brands now turn to one brand with one purpose. And we said, we are a brand that is going to celebrate communities from farm to cup. And a couple of years later, this didn't happen at the onset in 2010, much later, we also came up with the word Prajava. And we thought, I was inspired by, Scandinavian words like huge and bigum. They went global for various lifestyle reasons. And I thought, Prajava was a lovely term, and we've already used it as our tagline, as our brand purpose. Why not take Prajava around the world and say Sri Lankans are super powerful, when they're together. And it really worked, and people, around the world love this word, and, associate English Tea Shop as a true representation of Sri Lanka's community. And when I talk in Sri Lanka, I always say, I go a step further and say this is a little untrue, because our Prajava only works when we are in trouble. Our Prajava doesn't really work that well in, in the context of when going is good. I think in crisis, in terms of difficulties, there is no other nation that's as powerful as us. But what will happen if we use that power when things are good? I guess that's something for the new normal world, where hopefully we'll achieve better results together. And then from purpose, why organic? Now, as I said, we were not specialists. And also, if you go back to 2010, I'm talking of in the back of a global economic crisis. Organic was kind of going, on the reverse in 2009, 10, 11, 12 in the UK, where we established our front end. Organic was going down. So this one company kills its very successful value-added business, a $12 million business, to build something from scratch, risking the conventional platform, risking that easy supply sources and the entire gamut of things that were readily available to us to build something from scratch. And that also at a time when the market was going on a decline. But we saw some significant things in the market. And this I relate to my Industrial Revolution 4.0 thinking, because my thinking of IR 4.0 is all about people-centric. It's not very technology heavy definition that I use. I use a very people-heavy definition. We saw consumers around the world, especially in markets that we already had experience in markets like mainland Europe, in US, in Japan, in Australia, where people were looking for authentic product with provenance, ethicality, transparency, and a whole heap of things that people, the suppliers or brands weren't really paying attention to. And how would I beat a mass market brand, a Unilever-owned brand, or a grocery brand, or a supermarket brand? Bring these factors, forward. So while organic was on a little decline, I knew that the passion, the demand for ethicality, provenance, authenticity would only go up, and that has happened over the last 10 years. So this is why we went organic, because on the numbers itself, we can prove that organic is great for people, from farms to our own business to consumers, because we made it very affordable by controlling the entire value chain, because we do most part of the distribution, overseas distribution ourselves in a number of countries, UK being our hub, our own distribution. Because I've learned it the hard way anyway, having done 70 odd brands, that 75% of most FMCG products, the value, 75% of the price paid by consumers stay in those countries, and only 25% comes, or less than that. If you do private labels and commodity, in the tea industry, you will be very surprised that the average earning of our export is about 12 to 16% of the final price paid by consumers. In some parts of India, it's even worse. Sri Lanka is a little ahead there, because our quality has always received a fairly premium price in those 15 countries at least. So organic has a whole heap of benefits, number of SDGs that we take, and it's a very holistic program. It's not just an agriculture movement. It's a movement, especially for a small country with such diversity, to build a platform that can evolve to be a very, very powerful, a source of income for the future. This is a very complex, part of our business, but I'm going to brush through this.
Yes, so if we can take about a minute or two, and then we can probably take some of these aspects into the panel discussion as well, in the sense of time.
So when we run our business, we apply something called the creating shared value theory, put forward by Professor Michael Porter and Mark Kramer. They talk about 3 different clusters, 3 different areas for a business: the supply cluster, and also internally within the organization, and also in the market, as to how you can create win-win relations. So going organic was just one step, but we totally changed the way a business is run. The business would work with suppliers, because by bypassing the auction, we would now have to create our own supplier pool. Organic wasn't readily available. We only had 2 key suppliers who had certifications we needed, and now we have a vast array of suppliers. So we had to invest in them, we had to train them, we had to do a whole heap of them. We invest 1% of our brand turnover in supplier development, and we spend 1% of our staff time of 150 of our senior people in organic farms. Inside the business, we are 100% open book management. We call ourselves a business of business people, and the power of productivity being increased through a very different leadership style, and running completely on, I know there is CMA students here. We run completely, transparent, business where all financial numbers are shared across, and 15% of our shares are owned by our employees. So I'm rushing through this. And also in the marketplace, we do a whole heap of programs to, make organic more affordable to people, a healthier choice. And also, I think the key point of English Tea Shop is that we tick the box of consumers who are searching for ethical, authentic, brands, as I said earlier. So very quickly, in our business success, don't bother about these numbers, but the one simple thing that I want to share here is we are not just guided by P&L, balance sheet, or business growth. We have a very complex, sophisticated model. I've only highlighted a few here, where we measure social success, environmental success, and business success, and we kind of put them together in valuing our brand. And our FOB earnings today is over $25 a kilogram, which is 5 times the average industry value. And there's a whole heap of other numbers that proves that we are on the right track with one single brand. And we won a number of awards for this. And again, 3 clusters for people powering and for transparency. We won awards in the US for our open book management, approach. We won the Queen's Award for Sustainability in the UK this year amidst COVID. National Business Excellence Award in the UK. All these for our business model and our journey so far. This is a little look about what we look like in the markets. And with that, I'll end, and hopefully, we'll take questions when it comes to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Herat. I think some wonderful thoughts. And one of the things that struck a chord with me is that you are probably a true testament through your organization on linking theoretical models into real life practice. Sometimes we feel that entrepreneurs do not totally believe in the theoretical components. Fantastic to see. So few of the areas that Mr. Herat touched about was being different, entering new markets when the rest of the competitors are moving in a traditional sense, the importance of purpose. I think he exemplified that a number of times during his talk. Creating powerful brands. I think Sri Lanka needs to understand that as a country, we have a brand, we need to leverage on it. And then as individuals and entrepreneurs also, we need to create our own brands. And that's the only way that we can be world class. And then managing the value chain, which is a very important area. And we'll touch that a little bit more during the panel discussion. Now I have the privilege of inviting Mr. Jeffrey Sulfa, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Pikmi. Super brand focusing on the shared economy, the ride-hailing service. I, in fact, am an ardent user of Pikmi. I had my breakfast through Pikmi food delivery today, so everything went off perfect. That's why I can continue today. So over to you, Jeffrey, to talk about Pikmi, the start, and where do you see the future would be?
Thank you, Nirmal. Thank you very much. Thank you for that intro. More importantly, thank you for CMA for inviting me today to talk about entrepreneurship, and obviously being a speaker amongst these eminent entrepreneurs. So if I may start off, basically on entrepreneurship, I think we've heard a number of we've heard stories about the journeys of entrepreneurs, and then obviously I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more. I think for me, entrepreneurship was something I started very young. I think sort of, while in school, I got myself into computing, and then, started to play around with it. And then I realized there was an opportunity to make money. And that's how I got into it very early in life. And obviously it's been a journey, right? And I think, I think when I finished my A-levels, because I had some income coming in, I decided to, start a company. And my mother just came up to me and said, why are you trying to start a company? Why don't you do a job, right? First, why don't you make some money before you decide to go on this entrepreneurship or to go on this business? Because she knew, obviously, like all other parents, obviously everyone's concerned about their children. She was more concerned about, getting me married to a good family and things like that, right? I suppose every parent, every of our parents are all worried about it. So I think, so this is some of the challenges that we face, I think, in terms of our society. Our parents grew up thinking that our children needs to be doctors and lawyers and accountants, but never have they thought that, your children should be entrepreneurs. So I think it's a profile. I think it is something that I think events like this would help us all. But more importantly, I think if I may talk about entrepreneurship is a journey, right? So I mean, I'm actually very grateful that I started very early, right? I had a lot of people, even very eminent people, coming and telling me, why do you want to do it so early, right? Why did you do it so early? And I think if you do it early, you learn a lot, right? You have an opportunity through your career to learn as much as possible, right? You make mistakes, because every entrepreneurship journey is about ups and downs, right? You never have smooth sailing anyway, right? So there's always a lot of things to learn. I learned things today, I learned things yesterday, and I'm going to learn things tomorrow, right? And I think that's a journey, and that journey gives you a lot more. It helps you grow a thick skin. It enables you to handle different scenarios, and allows you to be able to what can I say, to pilot the weather, the bad weathers and the good weathers. So the point, so I think that's some of the benefits of starting early. And when you're young, you have all the energy. There's nothing to lose, right? You don't have a family behind you. You don't have children. You don't have spouses. So for the folks who are listening and thinking about entrepreneurship, I recommend you start today, right? If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to one day, be a CEO, or for that matter, be a chairman of a company, you should start right away, because it's only a journey. You're not going to hit gold immediately as on the day that you decide to be an entrepreneur, right? So that's an important piece that I first wanted to share. So I think so I'm here talking. I think Suranga touched on a few things, right? And the key points that he brought up was, one, agriculture; two, the fourth industrial revolution, right? And I think I am a product of the fourth industrial revolution, and I think it's important that there's a lot of attention given to this, right? I in fact think the digital economy is in the same sector as agriculture, right? Because it's only a matter of that digital will run some of the traditional industries, right? If not everything, right? Because that's where we are heading to, right? Today every industry is getting disrupted with technology, right? And obviously we've seen this with the taxi on the road. We've seen this in the food industry. We're seeing this happening on the health industry. There's a lot of industries that are getting disrupted. So I think it is an important sector, and that's why I said it's as important as agriculture, because end of the day, this is what we are going to be. Either we're going to benefit out of it, or are we going to be behind it? So the point, the important point for everyone here is to understand how important this fourth industrial revolution is, right? So look around, you'll understand that a lot of businesses today are run digitally, and the most valued businesses around the world are digital businesses, right? Gone are the days that the oil companies were the most valued companies, right? today, you take the Googles and the Facebooks and the Tencents and the Alibabas of around the world are now becoming the most valuable companies in their countries as well as around the world, right? So we have an opportunity, right? We as a country have an opportunity, and we need to know what needs to be done to help this digital economy to grow, right? I'll save that for a different day, but I think for everyone who's in, for the entrepreneurs, this is an opportunity to take advantage of, and for the policymakers, right? If they're all here, to understand how important that policies needs to be made to ensure that this digital economy can grow in our country. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done. Now, I think the reason why we are having this on this conference is also to acknowledge the importance of entrepreneurs in our country. Entrepreneurs in and around any other economy is the pillars of an economy, right? They help the economy to move. They create jobs, they create opportunities, they create the future for that country, right? So I think it is something that we need to look at, right? When I grew up, obviously we've had some great entrepreneurs in our country, right? And we've had great entrepreneurs, Sri Lankan origins, who did really well overseas as well, right? So we need to look at that and understand what more the country has to do to benefit entrepreneurs, right? Now, I think there are areas of improvements that needs to be done. Things like regulations, employment regulations. There are things pertaining to financing that needs to be looked into, and a number of areas that can help local entrepreneurs grow, right? We've heard politicians come and say so many things, but they never come to realization. But I think I'm a believer that entrepreneurship can get this country out, rather than depending on politicians to help us, right? So I think we need to be looking at developing our entrepreneurship in our country, and hence helping and in return help the economy grow. Right. That being said, I'm looking forward for this panel discussion. I'm happy to share my story if anyone has any particular questions. But my journey has been long, right? I've been in entrepreneurship for over 20 years now. I'm grateful. I started very young, but obviously I have another 20 to 30 years ahead of me. Over to you.
Fantastic, Jeffrey. Thank you very much for those thoughts. A few of the things that I picked up from this particular talk that you did was the importance of the journey as opposed to the destination. And you touched on it's a good time to get into entrepreneurship when you're young. If I may take the liberty of adding, there is no good time or bad time to be an entrepreneur. Neither should age be a barrier. And for people who are actually listening to this particular webinar, this might give enough inspiration listening to these wonderful speakers that time might be up for them also to move away from their comfort zone and try to find a gap in the market and possibly come up with new products and solutions being an entrepreneur. And it's also essential to understand that within the overall entrepreneurial journey, in the new normal, I think the digital economy will play a very important role, which Jeffrey touched about. So I take this opportunity now to invite Ms. Achara Samaradivakara. As you know, she's a trailblazer, the co-founder and managing director of Good Market, to take this opportunity to give her initial thoughts on the subject area. Over to you, Achara.
Thank you, Nirmal, and thank you, CMA and Professor Vatawala, to invite me and giving my ideas and share my journey about the whole story about Good Market. And I hope this might give you some kind of like inside out information to add to your journey, to bring you, as a successful entrepreneur. So I have a few slides to share with you. So since Jeff finished his talk as like an entrepreneur is it's an entrepreneurial thing, completely a journey. So I would actually agree with him, and I would say like I'm going to talk to you today about my journey. So my journey actually began in 2012 with the launch of the Good Market. So I hope you might heard about Good Market, and some people actually heard about the Saturday market, but the whole Good Market is quite big, I mean, it's a movement. So, let me tell you like how we started and how we, overcome all these challenges and how we connected different entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs into a one platform. So Good Market is a, I mean, direct result of many talented, like-minded people's energy. But by giving a leadership to this amazing concept, so many people give a credit to the leader. That's the obvious thing happen. So I always wanted to give, I admire all the supporters, all the volunteers behind me, and help to, make Good Market happen. So, so after we wrote the basic concept about Good Market, so many people were attracted into a different reasons. So, but to me, it is the collection of experience and my passion towards a sustainable economy. So, to protect Mother Earth and the people living in it while, doing our businesses. So, so I put this slide to show you that how I started my life journey towards, as an entrepreneur. So then I came to Colombo in 2006 for my higher education, and then my plan was go back to my hometown and, be with my family. So after few years being in Colombo and seeing so many gaps in the market and then opportunities, I'm still here in Colombo and, trying to setting things up through Good Market. So today I am here to, I mean, really talk about the entrepreneurial journey, where when we talk about journeys, we should go back and reflect our, lives. So when I was in school, I remember I was the president of environmental club, and there we were given, different exposure to great environmentalists. We are meeting them, we are talking to them, and I listened and learned about different environmental issues and how these issues impact on the people and planet. So when I heard about the planet, I remember how they spoke of it. They say like pale blue dot we call home. If we don't figure out a better way of living together and on this planet, there won't be a future for brands or businesses because there won't be any humans. So after I studied, economics and marketing in university, I was realized thinking and comparing what we discussed at the environmental club and how we talk about our economic system now, I realized our current economic system is based on a story and a set of rules that are not sustainable. We measure success based on the continuous growth and maximizing short-term profits. But you can't have continuous growth on a finity planet when you focus only on maximizing short-term profits. So there are long-term consequences of our health, our families, our communities, and even our climate. So therefore, the Good Market was started to help support the transition to a new economy. Everyone is talking about new 21st century's economy. So then an economic system where we can prioritize people and planet. So Good Market is actually developed for that. So the approach emerged out of few specific challenges. Let me tell you what are these challenges. So the one challenge is that the scale of the problem we are facing and feel overwhelming. Problems like climate change and then global inequity and then too big for any of as individuals to solve these issues. So it makes us feel like our individual action can't make much more difference with these kind of issues. So we hope that someone else will fix it and there will be some kind of maybe top bottom solution, but deep down we know that these changes aren't happening fast enough and we don't have the time to wait even. We have to find a solution. So the second issue is that even when we try to make a better choices as a maybe consumer, as a maybe business owner, it is not easy. Then the researchers and efforts that required can be you overwhelming, especially if you have a small businesses or if you are family just struggling to get by. So then so it is difficult to filter information and find relevant context. If it is difficult to know where things really come from and how they are produced, so it is difficult to know which information to trust. So then people are overwhelming with this information. So good market thought, this is why because even doing the curation is very important, and this is why the good market focused on, curating information. Good market is, we always call good market is as a curated community of brands that prioritize people and planet and are working to create a better world. So instead of waiting for new top-down rules, the community has developed its own set of rules called minimum standards. Even when if you wanted to become a good market approved vendor, so you have to go through an application process to meet good market minimum standards. So we believe that world we wanted to live in, we have to have our own rules, own sustainable, economic system to do that. So we believe that the bottom-up voluntary approach and brands choose to practice and prioritize the planet and people, it might help. So so even now, very recently, we created this all our energy last few years. Have we have collected so many people around the country and around the world. We connected into one platform. So then, when you go to goodmarket.global, our website, you can see all different vendors and their stories and what they are doing as entrepreneurs. So then. So most of the people knows Good Market as a marketplace. So we started Good Market as a physical marketplace in 2012, to connect small scale people and highlighted and bring them together, meet with customers and discuss their issues and develop their products. Because I know even as a listener, you might started your own business. Sometimes you don't know where I can sell my products, who will take my products. Oh, this product will really work in the market. You have to have some kind of like a platform for you to use and try out and figure out if it is going to be work or not. So then that's why we started a physical marketplace to connect the social entrepreneur or maybe a small scale producer with their own customer to see how it's going to be work. And then we started Good Market with 32 vendors in 2012. So everybody actually went through an application and review process. Then only we took them, only 32. But today we have more than 1,500 entrepreneurs who are trying to do something good for people and planet, not only Sri Lanka, around the global. I think we have more than 45 countries on board now, different vendors. So everyone is, towards the journey. They are also trying to they are doing businesses as entrepreneurs. At the same time, they are thinking about their environment and in the community, and they are trying to be more responsible. And 2014, so then we started physical market in 2012, and then few vendors came and said like, hey, we have 1 day per week to come to market and sell our product or try out our products, but rest of the other days we don't know what to do. So that's why Good Market began to start a retail shop to small scale vendors to come and sell their products before they go to supermarkets. Maybe when they go to supermarket, they have to work with very strong rules, and then the credit periods, and then they have to have a strong supply chain. So then these are very difficult for maybe newcomer or new startup. So they have to have some kind of like a incubator facility for them to, before they go to supermarket, they have to try things out. So then Good Market Retail actually started for this thing, and a lot of people actually started to work with us. Today I think we have more than 1,000 plus products coming from different rural people, and now some of them are supplying to supermarkets, and some are now exporters. So and then Good Market actually began to find out what are the ecosystems gaps. When we highlight a vendor, highlighting is not enough. We have to help them to develop their products according to the market demand, and then how they can aligning with standards, and maybe packaging guidelines, and then different certification is another hardest part. I mean, even English tea shop, they might know about how hard to even to export without a proper certification. When it's come to organic, even like Good Market, when we talk about organic farming with small scale farmers, they were began to ask, like, it is not going to be possible for us to obtain a organic certificate. It's very expensive. We have a very small plot of land. So then Good Market started a kind of like a consumer and technical people based approach called participatory guarantee system. If someone wanted to grow, then they can actually obtain a certificate for very less amount, like 10,000 bucks, to get a certificate and come to market as organic, farmer. So that's where the PGS stand. Good Market actually supporting to that hand as well. And today, last 2014, we introduced Good Market global platform for especially like people who are trying to do something good for people and planet. We thought we want to connect not only Sri Lankan people but global people as well, in a way that if you are producing something, then you can really work with someone who are really matching with your values. Sometimes you need a eco-friendly packaging, you can easily find out eco-friendly packaging from this platform. Likewise, we have connected so many people with this platform, and even not only like suppliers base, but for the selling purpose. If you wanted to export, there are some vendors started the exports through this platform. And then after COVID hit, we had again faced so many issues, because keeping small scale vendors being motivated and keeping them to still working even the COVID problem is happen. We actually keep help them. We, even though we are not financially sustain, we thought it's okay, we will go ahead and help them. So then we started e-commerce very recently, but it's not still on live. We are testing out with our very close consumers, and it is really working well. And we are trying to work as maybe like e-commerce, and the same time like for distributor for small scale vendors. So that's how actually, as an entrepreneur, we earn as a Good Market. We actually give service to social entrepreneurs. We help them to come up with their own brands, and not only in domestic market, go beyond Sri Lanka and do something their own in a proper way, and get more export income to Sri Lanka. So then we are helping them, because we are helping. There are so many gaps, because we know I know as an entrepreneur, there are so many issues, challenges out there, to find these, to find out and maybe get kind of like a support from government or private sector. Sometimes it's not easy, sometimes it's not, they are not understand what you are saying. So so that's why we thought Good Market will act as a marketplace, and the same time kind of like a help incubator for them to uplift or maybe bring their business into next level. So again, coming back to my personal journey, as all becoming an entrepreneur is not easy. Whether you are a man or woman, it is a very challenging journey. As an entrepreneur, we always believe in our idea, and even though some people won't see it, we put so much of energy to it. We try to get people to back us and help us, but still we keep putting ourselves in the risk. We are risking our money, our time, our respect, our heart and soul. We know that, we feel that. So but if you are willing to take risk and believing in your dream, definitely it will direct you to your goal. So as an entrepreneur, I know every entrepreneur tries to find a solution for environmental or social issues, and they're trying to give innovation solutions. They are benefiting not only themselves but the country, economy, and they create jobs and overall make a better world. So
Achala, in the essence of time,
one minute.
Yeah.
1 minute. I faced many issues through my journey. The main issue is that the situation of the country and its culture. Most of the government policies and programs not up to date, and they have to make things more simple. So many government institutes they are to support, but it is very hard. We'll keep the government aside, but as a group of people, as young entrepreneurs, now even we are there to help you come out and try your idea, maybe with us or somebody else. But Good Market is doing very, very tiny thing, but we can do together, we can do more. Even I'm happy if someone can start another Good Market in somewhere, we are very happy to help. But before I stop, give me 1 minute, I have a small video to share with you. I will quickly share about Good Market and what we exactly trying to do. 1 second. Yeah.
You might have to exit Achala and play the video.
It won't work.
No, it's not working.
1 second. How about now?
Not yet.
You have to share again.
You'll share again. Yeah, now it's working.
Is it working now?
Yeah, it's working now.
Perfect.
Sound is not there. Yeah. Sound. Yeah.
So thank you, Nirmal. Anyway, the situation is that, but we have so much of positive energy to make our country and economy much more better and more sustainable, protect our Mother Earth. We have long way to go. Congratulations to all entrepreneurs out there who are celebrating Global Entrepreneurship Week. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Achala. As always, indeed a pleasure to listen to you. So a few things that I took from her presentation and keynote was the importance of following your passion. Profit maximization should not be your only goal, but creating impact is essential. You need to identify ecosystem gaps if you are to succeed, and more importantly, take risks as an entrepreneur. And she also mentioned that the entrepreneurial journey is not an easy one. There is a lot of obstacles and a lot of challenges to overcome. Now, in the essence of time, I have an absolute challenge. We got a huge panel today coming from diverse industries. So all the four keynote addressees, we will be included in the panel discussion. And we have a few more joining us. We have Mr. Ashok Hettigoda, who is the Managing Director of Hettigoda Industries Private Limited and the past Chairman of National Chamber of Commerce joining us today. And we have Mrs. Samadani Kirivandaniya, the Managing Director of Sanasa International. We have Mr. Suresh Dimel, Board Director of Hambantota District Chamber of Commerce and the Acting Managing Director of Global Entrepreneur Network, Sri Lanka. Dr. Kulathunga Rajapaksa, a household figure in Sri Lankan industry, who is the Emeritus Chairman of DSI Samsung Group. Then we have two other trailblazers, Mr. Harsha Purasinghe, who is the Director CEO of Microimage and WSO2 Mobile, and Mr. Dulit Herath, who is the Chairman and Founder of Kapruka.com. So a few house rules, ladies and gentlemen, is that the panelists not the keynote addressees, the panelists will get 2 to 3 minutes to give a little bit of context from their point of view on the entrepreneurial journey, some of the risks that they had to take, and some of the ways of how they overcame it. And then thereafter, I will be asking a few questions from everybody, maybe picking up some of the discussion points from everybody's answer. And then we will provide an opportunity for the audience to ask questions. I already see some questions coming in through the chat line. Keep those questions coming in, and I will try as much as possible to accommodate them. We have approximately 40 to 45 minutes for this panel discussion. So I'll really appreciate if the panelists can stick to time. And so to start off proceedings in this panel discussion, I'll start off with Mr. Asoka Hettigoda to probably start with his opening remarks. Over to you, Mr. Hettigoda.
Thank you, Nirmal. I must first thank Professor Lakshman Vatavala and CMA for organizing this webinar. Now, I've listened to the keynote speakers on their journey, entrepreneurial journey, their success story. So now you've given me 3 minutes to talk about our journey, the sort of certain aspects of entrepreneurial story. Well, I mean, Hettigoda Industries is not the better known name, but Siddhalepa is the better known name, as people know. My grandfather started Siddhalepa Balm in 1934, and Siddhalepa became the first commercial product, Ayurvedic commercial product of Sri Lanka. Siddhalepa first obtained its license not from Sri Lanka, from Switzerland. So that's why Siddhalepa was allowed to be sold in the British colony, because the colony had an agreement with the Swiss pharmacy. So when he was barred of selling Ayurvedic products, he went to travel to Switzerland. So so that is the starting point. I think when an entrepreneur is encountered with a hurdle, a roadblock, most other people will look at as a difficulty, but entrepreneurs look at as a challenge. It's another step that you need to do. So there is, for an entrepreneur, there is no question without an answer. Every question has an answer, and an answer that is seen very clearly by entrepreneurs. So the company went on, but was not really a company. But in 1972, it was given to by my father, Victor Hettigoda. He thought he should develop as a proper company. He applied for the then Ministry of Health 13 times to obtain the approval in 1972. And at that time, the whole committee had only one Sri Lankan, Professor Senaka Bibile. So all the others were British people. So going through that journey, Siddhalepa became the company that created a segment in the FMCG market for Ayurvedic products. Siddhalepa first produced the first Ayurvedic soap, to toothpaste, to mosquito repellents. Going beyond the local shows, became the first organic certified organic fertilizer company in 1995. Siddhalepa was the first ISO certified company in Sri Lanka in 1994. So I'm just telling you some of these things because entrepreneurs are people who create new things. Entrepreneurs have really no boundaries, and their motivation to create doesn't run out. It's like every year you have to do something new, and the commitment. When you say that you had applied for 13 times to obtain a license, most people would have given up in the second, third, or fourth time. 13 times is, even to me, it's unthinkable. So, and also they have something that others don't see. They have a vision. They have a very clear vision of where they want to go. They see a path so clearly that they don't see it as a hurdle or a challenge. Then Siddhalepa went into the services area. In 1988, we opened the first Ayurvedic hospital. 99, we built the first Ayurvedic resort, purpose-built. Siddhalepa then we went on to do research, not locally, internationally, obtain international patents. First time international patents for Ayurveda was obtained in 2003 for our diabetic solutions. Now, at this point, we have expanded into services, into setting up international Ayurvedic centers. First of it was established in 2004, almost more than 16 years ago. So this journey, my father started. It's like a story of rags to riches. He was he had no money at the beginning, and he had only gone to 8th grade, and he did something that most other people think is unthinkable. Even creating a company slogan called Sama Gedarakama Sitiyutu Veda Mahatya. A few years ago, an American expert was writing on company logos, have said most of the best name brand logos have now run out of time. But if you look at the Sama Gedarakama Sitiyutu Veda Mahatya, it will never run out, because it doesn't say a wealthy house, a house in Sri Lanka. It doesn't. It's a dwelling. It's a dwelling, and Veda Mahatya is a concept. It's a concept of natural health. So these are some things that entrepreneurial habits are very unique. And I just heard you saying that there is no age, there is no time, and these are people who are very precise. They're also versatile in their activities. My father would have probably done marketing to advertising to distribution. I know our dear friend Professor Lakshman Bhattavala also served. My father served with him at the People's Bank board. So I mean, he's a man who's done so many different things. Was a very good writer. Started his journalist life at the Davasa newspaper with famous Mr. D.B. Dhanapala. So he's done so many different things, and I think it's an inspiration for most Sri Lankans that people think when they start, you need to have this, you need to have money, you need to have education, you need to have all this. I think my father broke all those barriers. He went to only 8th grade. He didn't have money, he didn't have connections, he didn't have anything, but I think he had a amazing brain, and a commitment that he would never give up, and believe in what he did. When he became an Ayurvedic doctor, he believed in the total system, and he was proud of what he was doing. And he was recently awarded the honorary doctorate from the Jawaharlal University as one of the Sri Lankans who have really used his marketing skills to the maximum. So this is just a part of the story. I mean, it's difficult to say the whole journey in 3 minutes, but I have just given some highlights of this entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Hettigoda. Much appreciated. I think there are a few areas that you touched upon that I would like further elaboration on and get the thought process of the other panelists as well, because the main objective of today's discussion is to talk to SMEs, future or current or future entrepreneurs, to get certain tips and ideas on how they can mold themselves within this wonderful journey of entrepreneurship. Thank you very much for that. Now I go to Mr. Harsha Purasinghe, the Director CEO of Microimage and WSO2 Mobile. I think he celebrated 25 years since setting up the company, I think as a school leaver. I would like to understand from Harsha a little bit on what got him to drive this entrepreneurial journey, the idea of his, and what are some of the preliminary tips that he can provide for prospective technology-based entrepreneurs. Over to you, Harsha.
Okay, thank you, Nirmal. First of all, thank you, Professor Lakshman Bhattavala and Suresh Dimal for inviting me to be part of this eminent panel. Thank you very much. But let me be brutally honest, I started this completely by accident. This is a high school startup in the 90s, probably the only such story in the ICT industry of Sri Lanka. This is not a planned company. We were a bunch of programmers in school, and one of the products that we built in the 90s, a set of Sinhalese fonts for Windows 3.1. There was a market demand for it. We ended up selling it because I didn't do my A-levels well. I just couldn't make it, but I was a good programmer, and the product that we built had a market demand. We end up making a lot of money. At a time, I only had my father's pocket money. You know, I don't come from a very affluent family. I'm coming from a middle-income family. My father and mother were ordinary government servants. My mother is a teacher, and father used to work in the government sector as well. So all he invested is a computer in me. So with that, I became a good programmer. So Microimage was started at a hobbies club in school. And what we built ended up as incorporating Microimage as a company in 1994 as a partnership initially. Then subsequently in 1995, we set up this as a private limited company. And long story short, we pivoted number of times, and over 25 years, this is the only software company from the mid-90s which exists today, which is a multi-million-dollar business today across 18 markets. We are a leader in digital human resource space across 18 markets. And also we are if you're listening to any music on any radio channel, it comes through Microimage software. All the broadcasters are powered in Sri Lanka by Microimage, be it you name it SLBC or Hiru or Maharajas, everything is powered by that. That's also a product which has gone beyond Sri Lanka to some destinations. Since we have limited time, I don't want to go into the lens of our story, but I wanted to end by sharing a few things, what I've learned over the past 25 years. First of all, I mean, I started this company at a time I didn't even knew the meaning of entrepreneur. I was the salesperson, marketeer, bookkeeper, you name it. I did every little thing, the PN, when we started, because what mattered was to preserve cash and somehow have enough cash to sustain the business. Because I bet on this. I have not been to a grad school. I have not done a degree. All I have is still A-levels, which I got 3 passes. That's all I have. It was a scary time. So having looked back this journey, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's a very tough journey, very hard journey, but it's not impossible. People who are really wanted to make an impact to the world, you have to become an entrepreneur. That's the best place to be. The second thing is you need to get into the market by either solving a big problem or you need to address a market demand. Those are the second thing. The third thing I realized, I think this will be a very valuable thing if you are already an SME and running a business. In 2015, only I came into hard realization that what I've built over the 20 years, by that time we were 20 years, we have essentially built a lifestyle business. Meaning we have won so many awards. We were in Sri Lanka. We are $1 million business by that time. But our business was growing very slowly. But when we look upon to the Silicon Valley, onto the Western world, those companies are growing exponentially. So that's where I realized either you have to be one of these. It's nothing wrong with it. It's a choice you make. Do you like to be solving a problem and be a lifestyle company forever, or you wanted to build a highly scalable global business which can immensely contribute to the Sri Lankan GDP and even to the whole world in that sense? That's where we invested in a platform and decided to raise a sharp focus, put all our energy, get whatever it takes, bet on everything on one product category. We felt there's a huge opportunity globally because the dynamics of work is changing, because the work is going to the future, because of the future of work. So we decided to bet on human capital management. And also we chose South Asia and Southeast Asia alone, because those two markets combined is a $10 trillion GDP market with 500 million workforce. So that's enough of market. If we can get at least 1% of that market share, it's a huge accomplishment. And with that, I would say since 2017, since we came up with our platform, we have grown year on year 100%. And we are a rapidly exponentially scaling business. So I would like to end there by sharing with all the entrepreneurs here. So you can decide to do one thing. So if you're already running a business, take a pause and think, should I really organically grow like 10%, 20% year on year? Or should I figure out a way to dynamically change this, the way I do business, or get into a thing which I can scale exponentially? So it's a business decision that you need to make, and then put whatever it takes to get it there. So I'll talk more during my panel session. Thank you, Nirmal.
Thank you, Harsha. Again, one of the things that I really like about Harsha's story and the way he does his business is that he's true to his word, he's direct, and he's definitely a very authentic type of leader. One of the things that he talked about clearly is that at certain amount of time, you might need to relook into the business, the model, and at times you might need to pivot the business. And he very clearly mentioned that he pivoted the business a number of times over this 25-year decade. And I think this is a good eye-opener for SMEs as well, who are always looking at a very traditional boundary, very product-oriented type of focus to probably adjust and adapt to the changing world. And I think COVID-19 is a classic example of companies being driven into change even without thinking. So thank you for that, Harsha. Without further ado, I'm going to Mrs. Samadani Kirivandaniya to get her preliminary thoughts about the topic area and what are some of the things that she learned over the years.
You have to unmute Samadani.
Yeah, you might have to unmute.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah, you can. Okay, all right.
All right, fine.
No. You can see me, right?
Yes, yes, please proceed.
Yes, okay, all right. All right, okay. I'm sorry, there is this slight signal issue in the area where I live. So you might hear, might not hear some of the stuff, pitch into, whatever the small things that I need to share with you. First of all, thank you, Dr. Vatavala and CMA, for inviting me. And it was really interesting to hear everybody's thoughts. And when it comes to the, last speaker, there is limited things that can be said, I think. But just to introduce, I'm not the entrepreneur in this journey. It's my father who created the Sansa brand, and I'm representing a brand, but basically nurturing the brand to a level where we can continuously add brand value to what is supposed to be catering to. So Sanasa, if you look at the brand, it's actually a very different brand from most of the other brands that was presented today. It's a social enterprise, but it is also a social enterprise that is created by a cooperative enterprise. So in Sri Lanka and in the world, most people think that social enterprise and cooperative enterprise are very similar, but these are two different things. So I invite some of you who might be interested in studying this specific enterprise model to look into the differences. But in very nutshell, cooperative enterprise is something that is created by a team of people in order to solve a problem that they face. So it's because individually you can't solve a problem, therefore a team get together and put their best spirits together. So create this pool of strength that can address the problem that you face. Social enterprise, on the other hand, is to look at a problem that is out there and you being philanthropic or socially conscious and creating a model or enterprise that can cater to a large group of society. So these are two different things. So when it comes to Sanasa has very different models. Like for some people, Sanasa is a bank. For other people, Sanasa is an insurance company. For some others, Sanasa is this rural community community bank that you bump into when you go around the country. Some brands are really nice looking, others are really like almost dead looking, some are really poor looking, some are very elite looking. So it's a very, mixed kind of a brand that I am representing. Therefore, I have to say that I come from, I represent a brand that was created by that emerged in somebody's head, which is, my father said, he thought that, for that specific time in 1978, for the kind of problems that Sri Lankan rural economy face, cooperative model might be able to create a solution. So that is how the Sanasa brand was created. But Sanasa brand is nurtured by about 8,000 other entrepreneurs around the country. Like, even if somebody thinks that, this might be a good solution, it has to be bought by some other people and also test it in their own communities. So I would say, in any community where you walk into, if you see a Sanasa brand somewhere, that means there had been promoted and collect a group of people in their own community and then start working with that until it becomes a stable bank model in their own community. So we are representing 8,000 such brands networked voluntarily without having the regulatory authority or legal networking, working for about almost 45 years as a voluntary group to work within one brand. So for some private enterprises, an individual person or a company that owns a brand can control the integrity of that brand, the look and the feel of that brand, how the brand operates at the customer point and at the supplier chain. Whereas in Sanasa, 56,000 voluntary workers with 8,000 autonomous entities working voluntarily under one brand for over 45 years, which is the beauty of a cooperative network and a social enterprise, which to this point, I think if you really study, like, many international universities, some of the Ivy League universities study Sanasa model, and they are so amazed by how this is created and being nurtured in such a manner. So having just, stopped there to introduce what Sanasa is for all of you, just to get some confusion out of it, I will say how it is possible for Sanasa to be there as a learnings that can be, shared with some of you. So one is, we Sanasa saw market opportunity in 1978 when almost about 70% of the Sri Lankan local economy was poor and unbankable. Nothing called microfinance at that time. Nobody really believed in lending to that community, and governments and NGO kinds of people were thinking of looking at this community and treating them with subsidy. This was recognized as an opportunity to create a people's brand. So one thing, study the market, and in the market, identify a problem that can be addressed, which was, I think, Harsha also said. I would say, if you are trying to create a business, from Sanasa's learning with many different other initiatives that Sanasa has been doing, one thing I can share is that you have to either address a problem in the community, or you have to find, as Harsha says, you have to find a demand, or you should find a way to add value to a customer. So either if you can't just create something and expect the customers to buy it, but in Sanasa, the problem was rural poverty. And the value additions that Sanasa did was for the people who realized that they were opening into a international global market without much capital in their hand. Therefore, they have to either depend on the government or by subsidy. Value was sold to them, which is, let's get together and build a new social order. You have to start small, but Sanasa started without any capital without any company, without having regulatory support. My father was just a, social worker. Like he was with Sarvodaya, he left Sarvodaya, and then he was playing with what to do with the development work. And then he said, okay, let's get together, because we are not really happy with the way the community is and how the rural poverty is. Let the rural people get together and create our own tomorrow. So that was a value that was added to people who were hopeless after insurgency in 1971, and then changing of the government, and new market is opening where they were not really feeling that they are part of that market. So to that market, a new idea was sold. So concept was something that was the beginning of this brand. Then the other thing was, is I think as an entrepreneur, you really need to know who you are, who you are, how far are you prepared to go, what is the destination that you are happy at arriving at. So it is a journey, of course, but for a social brand, social enterprise, when you communicate with a group of people and you want to create and end a journey, people who follow you need to know where you are heading towards. So as a leader, as an entrepreneur, especially as a social entrepreneur, you really need to know where you are taking these people with you. So for my father, he knew he knew where he wanted to go. He wanted to build a new social order. I think now with the COVID situation and all that, everybody's talking about cooperative model where people can more participate in 78. Globalization is not have the capital, and we are individually very singularized and small. But if we come together and present something, we can become a bigger one. And he gave a bigger vision, which is let's build a new social order based on cooperative principles and values. So for the people, for the rural people, this kind of concepts are not really, attractive. So what he said was, in Sinhala, he said, Game Sampat Gamata. Village asset should be shared with village people. And then how do we do this? Eka Samatat Sama Ekata, one for all for one. So Eka Samat, one for all for one is the strategy. Game Sampat Gamata is the end product. Like if the village people cannot have the benefit of the village assets, there's no point in engaging in a development process. So I think this is anywhere, these two simple concepts in the entire journey of Sanasa, it's still relevant. So with two very simple concepts and a very vision, he was able to guide the people along a path voluntarily. Then another thing, and what I have seen in my father's, what he will do and what he will not do.
Sorry, Ms. Ikara, I think I might, in the essence of time, pick up from where you are stopped when the Q&A comes in.
Okay.
I will definitely get back to you on those few points. My apologies for that. So without further ado, I would like to now invite Dr. Rajapaksa, Kulathumba Rajapaksa, the Emeritus Chairman of DSI Samson Group, to give his preliminary thoughts. I think he's been a very strong advocate and strong supporter of helping SMEs since the first wave of COVID. Over to you, Dr. Rajapaksa.
You have to unmute, Dr. Rajapaksa.
Thank you, Professor, for allowing me to speak as a panelist on this seminar. Well, since there are time constraints, I'll briefly express myself. Mr. Tigode has mentioned certain things as an entrepreneur, which his father and my father has many things in common. He started well before my father started, and he said his father studied up to grade 8, whereas my father studied on grade 5. So we had many similarities. Well, we started as far back in 1962 at a time when the government stopped import of consumer items. and we had nothing to do. We were importing the products and selling. So my father wrote to the suppliers and inform them that imports have been banned. Therefore, we have no way of surviving unless we manufacture those products. So with the long hesitation, he managed to link with the Japanese company to provide technical know-how. And we set up the factory in a remote village in Gaul, where there was no electricity, no telephones, no bus service. But he wanted to have it in Gaul because his main idea was that he must do something to the native place. So that's how the factory was started in Gaul with a limited number of workers. And at that time, government had a lot of facilities for industries in 1962. The Industrial Revolution started, and many of the large industries had their bearings at Ekal Industrial Estate. That's the first industrial estate that they had as far in at that time. And many large industries had their original bearings in Ekala. So while going through the whole journey, in the same way as Mr. Hettigoda mentioned, there are a lot of obstacles and challenges, and we had to we faced all those challenges with courage and converted most of them as opportunities. And many of them may not be knowing. As for back in 1971, there was a Business Acquisition Act that came up in 1971, where government can take over any business when they feel that they are not towing the line with the government. So we were one of those victims. So we were about to take over our company. So my father and myself, we found alternatives how to get over this situation. So DSI was a brand at that time. So we floated another brand, so that if the company is taken over, we have another brand to market. So then the challenge of taking over diluted with the change of government. And by that time, we have launched 2 brands. So we were able to run sell the products to 2 brands. So that was an opportunity to us. Then 1971, many of them have forgotten that there was a war between Israel and Middle East. So this war created an opportunity for us to export our products to Middle East, because Israel banned any country exporting products to Middle East should not be allowed to sell to Middle East. So therefore, most of the countries like Japan, Korea were exporting to Middle East their shoes, whereas Israel, Middle East people impose restrictions. If they are exported to Israel, they can't be exported to Middle East. So we got the opportunity, and we started our first export as far back in 1971 to Middle East. That's how we entered in the export market. And at that time, Ministry of Industries also promoted export with a slogan saying that export or perish. So that gives us opportunity, because all the import raw materials are under license. So therefore, we got extra license because we are exporting. So this challenge also we got over. And then 1971, everybody knew there was an open economy. When the open economy was there, not only the raw materials, even the finished products were allowed to brought into the market. So then we had to compete with the imported products, and imported products did not come without, all came with stock lots and rejectors were brought into the local market, and all the manufacturers had a very tough time. So at that time, many of the companies who were established at that time had to close down because they could not compete with the free imports. But we managed to do it, because then the delivery was a problem when we were importing. We managed to copy those items and we entered into the market. That's how we managed to overcome the 1977 open economy policy. One fortunate thing was, with the open economy, not only the raw materials, even the machineries were allowed to import. So we import all the latest machinery, and we managed to manufacture. At that time, we had a severe competition from multinational company. So we had to overcome this competition with multinational companies. So we had to market our products through a slogan, because we can't say these are locally manufactured, because all are manufactured locally. So we brought a slogan saying that our product is a product of true Sri Lankans, and we have the slogan as Upambime Urumakkarayomge Pava. that we want to give the nationalistic this thing to consumers. So that caught the market, and we were ready to get into the market over and even overtake the multinational company by marketing our products. And we, at that time, marketing was the ball game, because manufacturing was difficult, but marketing was equally difficult. So we had to open up a retail chain, retail network rather, so to market our products, because footwear is a fashion item. Then while doing so, we thought that we should not be in one particular field of footwear only. So we thought we had to have a backward integration. So there are certain items that we can manufacture with the same machinery that we are manufacturing footwear, that is rubber products. So therefore we expanded backward integration to expand the rubber production line that gave birth to manufacture of bicycle tires, rubber products, all that because of the backward integration. So with that expansion, we entered into, because we had the local rubber, which was exporting without any value addition. So we thought that we'd make use of those raw materials, and we started another rubber factory to manufacture rubber products such as technical items and tires and various things, and off-road tires, etc. So that gave the birth to rubber products manufacturing factory. Then what happened was, all our factories were importing raw materials. So we thought that we should have something that doesn't require much imported input. So therefore we thought, what are the raw materials available in Sri Lanka where we can export? So therefore, at that time, we had this Belgium company offering us whether we could supply brushes. To make brushes, you need coir fiber and rubber wood. Both are available locally. So we diversified into that field as well. And we set up a factory to manufacture coir brushes. Then this 30-year war came up, and there were threats of bomb threats, etc. for the harbor. So if there is such threat in harbor, then of course all the import of raw materials will be restricted. So we thought we should enter into another field which doesn't require any of those raw materials, and that's how we ventured into the manufacture of roofing tiles from clay, which clay can be extracted from the tanks that have been filled up. So that gave birth to roof tile factory. So that's how we managed to diversify our group. But one important thing that I should mention to the entrepreneurs is we were managed to expand the company in that manner because of the financial management we had. We had all 5 brothers and all were in the business. So everybody took a share of the business, managed some part of the business. But at the same time, it is very important that all our brothers were directors of the group, and we lived in a fixed salary. And the financial discipline was, strict financial discipline was imposed. No one is allowed to take loan from company, no private business. That type of financial discipline was brought in the company. That's how we managed to manage the company with a good financial discipline. At the same time, the social, we must give something to the society as well. So therefore, there were a lot of social functions that we undertook. And at the same time, our profits were plowed back to the company for the expansion, and very small amount have been taken over by way of dividends. That's how we managed to build up capital in the company. And today we have altogether 18 manufacturing units and 5 trading companies. And we are doing extremely well in the market. And this COVID situation, we managed to pay our workers without any termination, because we sized down some of the operations, but we managed to run the company because the area that factories were located were not much affected by COVID. So that's how we went, and I'll end up because of the limited time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajapaksa. Very inspirational story once again. And it's also interesting to note on how you looked at financial management as an integral part, and also identifying new business opportunities that may not have the typical challenges associated with your core business. Thank you very much for that. Now I move into Mr. Dulit Herath, the chairman and founder of Kapruka, well known as the pioneer of e-commerce industry in Sri Lanka. I think, Dulit, I would like to ask you a little bit about not only your journey thus far, but some of the challenges that you had, and what would be some of the future opportunities for e-commerce, both for entrepreneurs who want to get into the space, but at the same time for SMEs who want to use e-commerce as part of their business model. Over to
Thank you,
Praveen.
Nirmal. Yeah, and thank you, CMA and Professor Bhattawala for inviting. So I will keep the Kapruka introduction short and spend more time about the learnings and the opportunity that we have as entrepreneurs in the e-commerce space. When I remember starting Kapruka about 14 years back when e-commerce was very new, from a simple table. And up to today, the whole company has been built from scratch, absolutely with zero funding. We never walked into a bank and borrowed a single cent. It was entirely built from ground up to today's $100 million level. It was organically grown because we really focused on selling products that we could give a great fulfillment service. When it comes to e-commerce, either you can have a major, huge range and have challenges in fulfilling those orders, or have a selected range but given exceptionally well fulfillment. When I say fulfillment, the delivery and the last mile, the process of getting a product to a doorstep, we really focused on that piece. So keep Kapruka aside, and if I talk today about the opportunity that we have for anybody who has a few items to sell online, you don't need a website. You don't need to set up apps and all the hard work anymore. You can simply start selling on Instagram and Facebook. We have thousands of people today, as we speak in Sri Lanka, who has limited sets of products. Maybe they had a retail store, but they are now shut down and they're simply working from home, listing 20, 30 products on Facebook or Instagram, but generating 200 to 300 orders a day simply by selling on social commerce. Now, this is a massive opportunity for pretty much anybody thinking about downscaling or shutting down your shop. If you go to Majestic City today, you will see floors and floors of shops being closed down. What's going to happen to those inventories? They have the products. I have seen many of them slowly opening up a simple Facebook page and doing a $2 to $5 boost and suddenly start generating 50 orders, 100 orders a day. Now that's a huge opportunity. The second opportunity is that to understand that Sri Lanka is 70% rural state. There is a large market that when you are selling on Facebook and Instagram, that you can focus on the rural market. Some of our campaigns that we do even at Kapruka are sometimes focused only to Jaffna, only to Batiklo, only to the different districts, not Western Province. Because we do this common mistake about always focusing our attention to Western Province and missing out 70-80% of the country, thinking that they are not ready for e-commerce, which is not the case anymore because of cash on delivery. Somebody from Jaffna can order a product and pay for it when he gets it at the doorstep, just like receiving a pizza. So the message is, if you have just a few products to sell, you don't have to wait till you create a huge brand and a website and all that. You can immediately bootstrap and get onto e-commerce through Facebook and Instagram, and that's social commerce. And second is, don't miss the bus on the rest of the country. Don't focus your attention only onto the Western Province. Look at the rest of the country. The third point I want to bring in is about cross-border e-commerce. So just like I said, ignore the Western Province and look at the rest of the country. You can also look at the rest of the world. There are well-established platforms like Amazon, eBay, all around in the western part of the world, where you can sell Sri Lankan produce too today. So we have already started this in a big way a couple of years back. If you look at Dilma, Akbar, Link Samahan, even Siddhalepa, and even DSI Wave, all these top 20 brands of Sri Lanka, we've taken to Amazon, we've taken to eBay, we've taken to several other tier 2, tier 3 level platforms in the US and in the UK, and become a distributor, an e-commerce distributor for those brands. So in conjunction, any Sri Lankan brand, if you already have a Sri Lankan brand, and if you want to sell it globally, it is not rocket science anymore. And you don't need to, send piece by piece through FedEx to another country. There are multiple ways of doing Amazon FBA shipments. There are multiple ways of, there are providers who will store your stock in those markets and sell for you. So, I mean, I feel like most the e-commerce entrepreneurs are really looking through a keyhole and they just see a very small picture. But if you really open that door, it's not just this western province of Sri Lanka. It's the rest of the country and it's actually the rest of the world. Just to, before I finish, the message to entrepreneurs, if I have to pick one thing that I love about entrepreneurship, is the freedom that I have to make decisions. I remember about 20 years back when I was in college, I was in the United States and I worked for Pizza Hut as a delivery driver. Now, I learned a lesson when I got fired from Pizza Hut. And that lesson is, I wish I can actually go back to that Pizza Hut and thank the manager. I remember after doing about 40 deliveries one day, coming back to the store, and he asked me to clean up the kitchen before I check out. I didn't want to do that. I said that, look, I signed up to be a driver. I don't want to clean up the kitchen. He said, no, I'm your boss. You need to do what I'm telling you to do. And I kept arguing with him, said, look, I didn't come here to do anything else other than driving. And he said, yeah, you can go, but you are not coming to work from tomorrow, you're fired. And actually left. I remember how difficult it was for me to really, have to always listen to a boss. And that whole experience of not wanting to work for somebody has struck in my head from that day. Everywhere I worked after that, I worked a couple of places in the US, large brands. But at the back of the mind, I was like, no, I need my freedom. One of the biggest gifts, just like, Achala and Harsha, most of us said, entrepreneur is not for everybody. But the positive side of entrepreneur, what I really love is the freedom of entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Fantastic, Durit. Maybe I'll take this opportunity to quickly post your question, which has come to me on the chat. This is from an individual who is into the cinnamon business, wants to know how they can get into the export markets using a platform of your nature. Maybe a quick tip that you can provide this individual.
Sri Lanka is the largest exporter of cinnamon to the world. And we only bring about $300 million. That's peanuts. It's because we don't have proper brands like Dilma, Sadpas, Ceylon tea shops. We don't have a proper established brand for cinnamon. So if you really establish a good, a brand name for cinnamon and value add it and not sell it out in, wholesale, value add the product and put it onto these global platforms, you will have sales. Simply go to Amazon US today, not Amazon India or Amazon UK. Just go to Amazon US today and search for Ceylon cinnamon and find that people are selling for $84 products that they import the raw materials from Sri Lanka, package it up, and upsell it that kind of way. So sell it globally.
Fantastic. Thanks, Durit. So very quickly, we're going to the final panelist. And I'm also then going to take into the questions which have come to me via the chat group. And so my invitation now is to Mr. Suresh Dimel to give his preliminary thoughts about the entrepreneurial journey and some of the tips for entrepreneurs. And ideally, Suresh, if you can tilt the discussion towards COVID-19 and some of the tips that entrepreneurs can look into in terms of navigating during challenging times, that would be much appreciated. Over to you, Suresh.
You have to unmute, Suresh. Unmute.
Yeah, you'll have to unmute. Sorry.
I think I will focus. Thank you. I think I will focus on agriculture and exports because both those I'm intimately involved in them, as well as they are very interesting for people who are looking to switch these days. So I would like to continue from Suranga's conversation about quality and organic and so on, and Steve Jobs said that people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And I'm a true believer of that, because in every business I've been, I've always tried to innovate, do something that other people are not doing. Where they now Tulit talked about adding value. Now you can take a pretty mediocre product and package it in a way that it's exciting for people. Now in my 40 years of exporting, I have packaged product in multiple different ways that I'm now kind of bored because I can't think of another way to package it, but I know I will. So it's, you know, these are people have a tendency, I think, to look at what other people are doing and copy it instead of looking at something that is new and innovative. I think a big message that I would have is be innovative, do something different. One thing that people can do is to today, you know, 40 years ago when we started our business, my family business, we didn't have internet. So we basically had to go to trade fairs or telephone calls to learn about the markets when we were exporting. Today, all that market information is on your smartphone. And, you know, people need to use that and network. And I think with Global Entrepreneurship Week, I must emphasize that this is all about collaborating and networking. I think COVID has accelerated this situation for collaboration, because I think the only way we are going to survive and succeed after COVID is through collaboration. And today you can already see that in the last 6 months, the rich have got richer and the poor have got poorer. These gaps are very dangerous for the world. And I think, you know, Achala and Samadani will totally agree with me. The time is now to be a social entrepreneur and do something new, different type of collaboration, help the value chains, the supply chains. You know, I think we have a lot of supply chains, and also helping people to switch. Today, there are a lot of people out there who are challenged on switching. And what you know, now if we take agriculture and the farmers, they are all, today you go, you see they want to grow turmeric. But by the time that turmeric harvest comes, I think they are going to be in trouble. But they can't understand that. They will go with the bandwagon. They will always plant what the neighbor is planting. And then there is an overproduction of a certain product. So this type of information needs to go to the farmer. In Colombo, the markets know this very well, but the farmer doesn't. Or it's difficult to make the farmer believe it. Now I have farmer meetings every month, and now I'm trying to get 300 farmers to come on Zoom. That's going to be the new challenge because we can't visit them anymore. I had a bunch of my staff was put into quarantine because they had a small farmer meeting in Monaragala recently. And so I can't even go there anymore. But we have to look at innovative ways, you know. And if they have a cell phone, they can get on Zoom. If they have a smartphone, and most of them do, you know, and they can. Now this is, but somebody has to teach them how to do that. And nowadays we have lots of information in Sinhalese, which I myself don't know how to use, but my staff do. So they are translating everything into Sinhalese and then in Tamil. I think these are the new things that are going to come as we go forward. And I think it is up to us who are well networked maybe, that we need to now help the small businesses to come up to speed, because without that, they are lost. And I think, you know, helping them on on digitalizing, and now for exports, you have to have traceability and so on as we go forward. And organic agriculture would be so easy in Sri Lanka, really. Sri Lanka could be the organic island in the world, but everybody has to come together. Without a collaboration, it's difficult to do any of this stuff. So my words to everybody is collaborate. More than competition, collaboration. Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh. Fantastic. I think that's a key word, very important word, an area that as Sri Lankan entrepreneurs, we've been very lethargic, I think, to collaborate. We operate in a very silo-based, me, myself, and Irene type of philosophy. So I think it's fantastic words. So this question has come from Tushara to the chat box, and I pose it to both Suranga and Achala for a very quick answer. So the question is it practical to be an entrepreneur without considerable capital with you? And I believe both of you all touched that area in your keynote as well. Maybe you can give a quick answer to that, both Suranga and Achala. We'll start off with Suranga first.
I was going to say ladies first, but I saw that question on the chat box. I guess, I think Dulit alluded to this very, clearly. It's not about the capital. It's not about the amount of money in hand now, because, in a recent talk, when I addressed exporters of Sri Lanka, I said, I don't think I can ever remember in my career a time that the small and medium sector, the startups, the real small people can do a great deal more than people who are already, kind of committed to, large, cumbersome platforms. I think a lot of us here, it's, the fascinating stories that we heard have started from scratch, started from nothing. If those things happen during, a period where scale was everything, where economies of scale was everything, today is the opposite. IR 4.0 for me is the convergence of technology and people. In a hitherto unseen way, where you can be a businessman in a, I don't know, our time and now, I think if we are given to start now, we would do this completely differently and do better as well. I guess, capital is my last problem right now.
Sure, thanks, Suranga. Maybe Achala?
Yeah, actually, the using funding or you need fund actually depend on your business idea. What you're going to do. I mean, it's depend on your business idea and the way you are going to do your business. Because in my around or myself, we started with zero capital. We started small scale because what I thought personally, doing a small step is much better and less risk for us. Then we can try things out. If it is going to be work, then I can invest more and I can do it much in a way, in a good way. So, but there are some industries or some businesses, they need funding initially. But think about the way you are going to spend your money. You have to have a very good plan. You have to have very good, understanding about the market, how you're going to work your money, how you're going to plan your money. That's how you have to think about, because some of the cases I saw, some people actually go to the loan and then they get money and they spend it in a way, different ways, and sometimes these are not really used them in a proper way towards for business objectives. Then they are finishing with as a debtor. So then I would say, if you have your own money in your hand, invest that and then slowly develop your business. And once you develop very good cash flow, and once you are comfortable with your income, and then go for a next level, rather than just putting money in maybe with loan or funding and then without plan, then it's really risky. So then because most of our cases are zero fundings and then we develop, it depends on your business idea, but try to be very careful and minimize your challenges.
Thank you, Achala. Very pragmatic advice indeed, coming from a person who's been there, done that. This question goes out to Mrs. Ramya Veerakon, and I would like to tag in Mrs. Kirivandani as well on this, because it's a very interesting question. And I think it relates to both of you all as well. Unfortunately, it's an anonymous question in the chat box. If I try to summarize, they're talking about succession planning. So as an entrepreneur, what are some of the things that you need to keep in mind if you are to effectively get into succession planning? Now, this is very important, I think, from a family business point of view as well. There are a lot of entrepreneurs who are operating from a family-owned business. And one of the challenges that family-owned businesses in this part of the world has is the smooth transition to the next generation. Maybe taking that into context, if both of you all can shed some light. And Mr. Kirivandana, as I promised, I'll also give you a quick opportunity to complete the balance few points that you couldn't during your preliminary thoughts. Maybe we start with Ms. Veerapon for the moment.
Yeah, may I give my thoughts about the successive plan?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it is true. I started from scratch and I brought it up to a very, I must say, extra large platform of our business, and in very diversified areas. And I got both my daughters after their academic qualifications into the business, and they are into 2 different areas. And now it is they who carry on the business, and I only in the advisory capacity, as well as, you know, in policy making or decisions. That is how I'm in the business at the moment. And even for the 3rd generation, we have sort of a plan. Of course, my grandchildren are in the universities overseas, and they are studying in different areas where they will, except one. I have 3 grandchildren. Only one is in a different line, but the other 2 will continue in a different level of the business, because they are into much advanced knowledge. Therefore, they could take the business into a different level.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Veerapon. And maybe to you, Mrs. Kirivandana.
Yeah, if I talk about succession planning in social enterprise, I think it's a very different thing, because for a private enterprise, succession planning, people automatically would like to own the business that they inherit. And then the planning would be basically to ensure that the business continues being relevant in the market. So know the skills and how to manage the HR and whatever the business that you are inherited. Whereas in social enterprise, succession planning largely depends, in my opinion, is on how much the people who succeed after an entrepreneur buys the vision. So because social enterprise is for a, you can hear me, no?
Yeah, may I request the other panelists to mute their mics, please? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Kirivandana.
Yeah, so for a social enterprise, succession planning entirely depends on how well the people who inherit that business, or to whom the business leadership is handed over, believe in the vision of the business. And then it's not just the vision, but also the technical competencies need to change over time. Like when you start a social enterprise, it's a manual operation, smaller scale, with lot of energy and emotional involvement. But then you go into technical phases. You have to continuously reinvent your brand, and you need to get quite a large group of people to work with you to create that brand and embrace that brand as one single brand. So that requires quite a lot of education and energy, and also continuous reinventing yourself. So for a social enterprise and for us, the biggest issue is how best you can establish partnerships. So, partnership with your regulator, partnership with your, other entities in the market who can compete, like, entities like technology partners, entities like marketing partners, branding people, the media, how best you are establishing that partnership determines resilient you are as a brand in the market. So, for me, usually social enterprises are created by people with like very colorful people who are mostly, who have some energy and who are recognized as, leaders in that market. But then the second level, it has to be institutionalized. The leadership, the vision, whatever the things, unless you institutionalize it and you expect someone else, an individual, to replicate the same, leadership, then, most of the time I have seen that these are failures. So, I think as an entrepreneur, if you are thinking of building a brand and going long term, you have to also be prepared to let go at one point. So that is why I think you need to know who you are and how far you are willing to go. Like, entrepreneurs never give up. I'm still surprised by the energy my father has. Like, I think he will finish when he dies. He continuously reinvent things. They just can't. Like, they keep reinventing. They see a problem, they keep attending to it. So they don't give up. But at one point, the institution has to be handed over, because the new challenges, new types of technical realities, they are really boring for an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a person who thinks and quickly wants to do things. So, unless the institution is properly established, it's going to collapse. So then one brand collapses, it's going to, affect all the other things. Then when you realize it, sometimes you're fortunate to realize it when it is not fully collapsed. Sometimes, unfortunately, certain brands collapse. So I think you need to continuously reinvent your brand, but you have to continuously go back to your fundamentals and find out why you actually wanted to do this. Like, why you want to do this. Once in a while, you have to go back. Like, for some people, it's because you want to have money. But for some people, it's because there was a problem when you started the brand. But after some time, that problem no longer exists. So unless your brand is going to continuously address something or add value to your customer base, I think you want to, with a lot of money putting in, reinvent your brand, put too much, money to, regenerate, give more frills, but the brand is not bought. That's because it's no longer relevant. So I think for entrepreneurs, I think another learning that I saw over a period of 45 years with one entrepreneur building a brand and establishing other organizations connected to that brand, what I saw was that sometimes you need to go back to your theory and see whether this is really relevant anymore. Right? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Kirivandane. So the next question I would like to pose to Mr. Hettigoda and Harsha as well. So this is a question from an individual who is asking that, can you give us some tips if we are currently working in a corporate sector organization and want to get into entrepreneurship? What are some of the tips that you can provide us to embark on that entrepreneurial journey? Maybe we start with you, Mr. Hettigoda.
Yeah, Nirmal, it's difficult to give any tips for an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a person who will not listen to somebody else. Entrepreneur is a person who will create his own method, mechanisms, the pathways. So you have to first figure out what you want to do, and has nothing to do with whether other people have been successful in that, because you are creating your own path. You are working on your own vision. And entrepreneurs are people will not look at, well, why is that guy doing next door? Am I going to do that? No, they don't care. They don't care how successful other people have been, because they know they are going to be successful in whatever they do. So that belief, that commitment has to be there. So I think before you start on your entrepreneurial journey, you must figure out what you really want to do. Do you really believe in what you want? Not forget about everybody else, forget about the guy next door, forget about the other office man. All of that is irrelevant to an entrepreneur. As many have said, now my father is 84. He has let go. I mean, he doesn't participate in any of these discussions anymore. But when he was active, he was a master at everything. There was no one in the company who could get into a discussion and say, so I know better than you, because actually he had studied better than anybody else. So entrepreneurs are people, I don't think, can get a clue from somebody else. Anyone who is waiting for someone else to give a clue is not an entrepreneur.
Fine. I think it's a very valuable thought, and it's also, I would say, the brutal reality, because inspiration cannot be passed on necessarily from entrepreneur, and they need to identify market gaps and so forth. Harsha, would you like to add something on that? Because I believe there are a lot of people watching this particular webinar who is considering and pondering getting into entrepreneurship. What would be your thoughts?
I think Mr. Hettigore gave a very comprehensive answer. I have never worked for anyone, so I don't come from a corporate background and switch to this. So therefore, I'm not the best guy to give tips for a corporate person. Maybe Dulit can probably, but I have to tell one thing very important. You have to see a problem, or what do you like to solve in the society? Whether is it a social problem or a commercial problem, you need to start there. If you don't see that, just because, as Mr. Hettigore said, somebody is successful, you see, today actually this entrepreneur word is sort of celebrated in a very fashionable way. It's become, I don't know, it's very glamorous. So people think, wow, it's good to be a startup, good to be an entrepreneur. No, it's not that easy. It's so hard. I must say it's a very challenging journey, and it has to start with, what are you trying to solve? What problem you're trying to solve in the society? And if you see that, and then when you see that you have a solution for it, then you have to go for it, and you will know that you are an entrepreneur when you start dreaming about it. When you wake up in the morning, you see how the solutions work together. You can see the customers. You can see how you can end up selling it. It all get visualized to an entrepreneur. And if somebody needs to figure it out, you need to check the box out. You're not an entrepreneur. Don't be trying to become one. So that's the short answer I can give.
Fair enough, Harsha. So this question, I'm going to loop in Dulit here and Dr. Rajapaksa. The question is from Sumudu, and the statement is quite simple, that for any successful business or entrepreneurial journey, you need to have a viable business model. So the question is on how to create a viable business model. Maybe we'll start with you, Dulit, and I'll go to Dr. Rajapaksa.
This model are just on Excel. So I mean, yeah, it helps to get your thoughts together. But my advice is, don't work too much on the. We've seen the hundreds of times that Excel has completely betrayed us when you actually implement and execute an idea. But the most important part is how much you believe in the idea. It doesn't need to be a huge problem solver. It can be a very simple idea. It can be, a guy selling bananas, right? If an entrepreneur wants to start a banana farm and talks to me, and when I'm talking to him, when I look into his eyes, if I see how much this guy believes in this vision of simple problem of, starting a banana farming, and if I see that love in his eyes, that is good enough of a clue that he will work out the business model. He will work it out. He will figure this out for the next couple of years. So that belief in you is much more important than the business model.
Thanks, Sulita. Dr. Rajapaksa, would you like to add on that? Or do you have a different perspective?
Entrepreneur should have a vision. He must visualize things, right? As Mr. Hettigore mentioned, you can't do what other people are doing. You must have something innovative idea, and you must beyond the borders. Behind the wall also you must be able to think. You must have eyes all over the places. One important thing I have to mention is, if you are an entrepreneur, you should be prepared to do very hard work. You can't be you have to engage yourself at least 16 hours of work you have to do initially. That's entrepreneur is a hard worker. I think Mr. Ashok Hettigore will agree with me. His father and my father has worked very hard. We had very hard work. That's how an entrepreneur has to do this hard work. And financial management is extremely important. You must have the capital. You don't have capital. You know, my father and Asoka's father didn't have capital. We had to build up the capital through the business that is generated. So hard work is one important thing, and also manage finances. Many of them have failed. They don't know how to manage finances. They think that all the money that you get to fall into the lap is going to be profits. That is not the way. You must understand what is the amount that you can draw from the business. If you don't understand that part of it, then you can't be an entrepreneur. The other point is you must focus on the business. Yeah, if you can do politics as a business, but not business as a politics, right? So many people are trying to mix up because they try to do many things. Because you must have one focus. What you have to focus on the business that you are going to do. Many people try to do many things at once and they fail. The focusing and having focus arrangement and financial management with the advice that I am going to give for any entrepreneur who is going to be the entrepreneurship. That is what we call entrepreneurship. Just copying from somebody else and copying to the same thing, that is not entrepreneurship. And as Mr. Asok said, you can't give ideas. Entrepreneurs must have their own ideas. Even a pin is enough for him to develop a business. As Mr. Dulit mentioned, even banana plantation, that is more than enough for an entrepreneur to develop, built on that. That's what we call entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Rajapaksa. So the next question I'm going to pose to Suresh, I think it's an agriculture-related question, which has come in. How do I take my agriculture produce towards export markets? What are some of the advice that can be given? Maybe I'll start with you, Suresh, and then I'll get into the rest of the panelists. Suranga, maybe you can also add a little bit into it on people looking at export markets, because there was a question on single blended tea exports and so forth. Maybe since you are from the domain, give a quick answer to that. Over to you, Suresh.
Yeah, the best way is to start with the Export Development Board. People get frustrated when they go there because they feel like it's a typical government office and you won't get any assistance. But I have found them to be relatively helpful if you go to the proper place. The other place is the Association of Fruits and Vegetables, Exporters Associations, and National Chamber of Exporters. All of those organizations can direct you to the particular export you are trying to do. Now, many people get into this without having an agricultural background. Maybe they have a piece of land and they want to start growing papaya or something like that. So it is best for them to go and get some education, you know, whether it is, you see, I have found even our farmers are not very good at financial management. So this, I think that we talked about financial discipline and all that. This is where, you know, people think there is money without doing the calculations. And I think Dulit was absolutely right about Excel. I mean, I don't know what we would have done without it. I think my father used to have a foolscap paper. Today, people don't even know what that is. And he used to put columns and rows and calculate all kinds of things. And he was an engineer, so he used to draw graphs. I still have his handwritten graphs. Today, I can do that in 5 minutes with Excel, which used to take him a day to do. So this is again where we need to support small businesses in Sri Lanka to use these tools. So the skills development in financial management and agriculture is absolutely necessary, because people can lose a lot of money getting into agriculture if they don't find the proper markets and do the proper, you know, agriculture is a risky business. And you have to be a good entrepreneur to get into agriculture. Otherwise, you can lose a lot of money. And right now, the easier part of agriculture, which there is a huge gap in Sri Lanka, is value addition. storage, packaging, that type of area. And I think that, 50% of our fruits and vegetables go to waste. So your post-harvest technology has a huge opportunity in this country. And that is where we can maybe improve our collaborations and so on, and try to encourage people who want to get into exports. This post-harvest handling will be critical. So
Right.
that advice is available at the Export Development Board and so on.
Thank you, Suresh. Anything very quickly you would like to add, Suranga?
Yeah, I think there is no quick remedy or a single remedy here, but I guess a lot of people alluded to the fact about having a strong business purpose and the ability to solve a significant problem, whether it's significant or small, that kind of thinking. I think where Sri Lanka has failed now, I come from 100% export sort of a background, because we were founded with the idea that we will never sell anything locally, because we just thought that initial problem was bringing foreign exchange, and then it got further evolved in 2010 when we thought of solving the tea industries, the bottom of the pyramid, making ourselves a very social enterprise. I guess the biggest problem Sri Lanka has is we're not going to compete very well when we have a commodity sort of approach. So if you just get into agriculture or anything else for that matter, just because we are good in something or just because we have something, I guess that's not going to take you far. So again, small and medium sector, I guess, has a tremendous advantage of starting the right way and going global from the onset itself. Now, we were born global, and we've stayed that way. I guess you don't have to be large to do that. It's just that I think we learned it through doing a lot of mistakes the first 10 years, packing for like 70 odd brands. That was a massive learning. That was like, 100 years worth of experience doing 70 brands in 35 countries. Small stuff, at times. So you got to start somewhere, but you got to have this branding animal built by yourself or by someone else. So we got it done by someone else in 70 different ways across 10 years. And then we finally did something that none of them have, done. Because English Tea Shop, as even acknowledged in the tea industry, by and large, was an original idea in 2010. We didn't try to be anyone else. We started with a significantly different problem. So you don't have to be large. You don't have to think commodity. You don't have to think for beating everyone else in this game. You got to, find a way to get to the consumer to solve a different problem or to value add, as someone said, in a different way. Either through differentiation or cost advantage.
Right. Thank you, Suranga. I think one of the things that I've learned, being a very micro entrepreneur in a humble way in comparison to the people on this platform, is that you need to manage time. Time management is an essential skill for entrepreneurs. And I think by default, we've gone 5 minutes more than time. And I've been sent a message by Professor Vatavalla to continue. But sadly, Professor, we need to call it quits today. But I'm going to give every panelist half a minute to 1 minute of concluding remarks about maybe some advice and their concluding remarks on the topic area. I'm going to start with Dulit and Harsha, and I'm going to slightly change the topic into an area that both of you all are very passionate about, on creating impact. I think you have moved away from doing traditional businesses, but now more and more keen towards creating impact. And maybe you can start with that in your concluding remarks on the importance why companies need to look at creating impact as opposed to pure profit maximization. I'll start with Harsha, and then we go to Dulit, and I'll give everybody else an opportunity thereafter. You might need to unmute yourself, Harsha.
Yeah, so when you build a business, I believe anyone who's building a business today, I mean, I don't know, his motives will be different, but we as a business, we always want to be a conscious business, meaning we not only think about profitability, but how do we really ensure we take care of environmental and social impact also. So even social impact is a core value in our value system. So if you know, I mean, Microimage is the company which built the only early warning system which is used by the government of Sri Lanka. This was developed after Indian Ocean tsunami. if I put a value to it, it's about 25 to 30 million worth of engineering hours over the last 15 years, which was done together with, this is an idea which emerged after the tsunami with myself and Dr. Hans. We together built this, and today we are taking that as a product to Haiti and many other countries who can make use of this technology for early warning purpose. So recently, when we celebrated 25 years, we saw a very interesting problem. I mean, I was shocked to see there are schools in Sri Lanka who has never seen a computer in their lives. So we are a company which started in a high school computer lab. So we thought, why not we started donating a computer lab, fully well-equipped computer lab. Not only that, build a sustainable model around it. So we started with Lenadora Kanishta Vidyalaya in Matale, and we are doing our second project. We were scheduled to do in November in Siambalandu. Because of the situation, we postponed. But just to summarize, I mean, when you get into business today, you know, we have one planet. We need to think about the planet as a whole. So it's always good to build a purpose-driven, conscious business along the way. So if you do that, not only you'll be, I mean, at the end of the day, I want to see that we all built a fulfilling journey towards the end, because we all are going to die. You know, that's the ultimate truth. We live a short life in this thing. We are actually in between. It's an illusion. At the end, we die. So in that illusion, we need to make it purposeful and make it impactful to the larger society we live in. So that's my parting remarks, Nirmal.
Thank you, Harsha. Dulit?
Right. So, you know, whatever made me happy when I was in my 20s is not what makes me happy today. And whatever made me happy in my 30s are again different. 40s is now. So I think as an entrepreneur evolves and as his business also becomes more successful, he has more freedom and the willpower and the muscle to, you know, bet high on impact and, you know, pump more of your wealth into the next generation, into impact projects. So I think Grasshoppers is one thing that I did and very passionate about. And what's out there today is an option to decentralize. I'm a huge believer of decentralization. Even if you take a courier company like Grasshoppers, is entirely decentralized up to the grassroots level, where the majority of the revenue directly goes to the end user, or I mean the end worker rather. If you take Uber, it's a completely decentralized model where whatever you pay the taxi will go to the worker as direct as possible. So I think there's a lot of room for building enterprises like that today, and it's also very prone to pandemics because there's no, you know, there is no mothership that can, you know, crash, right? It's very decentralized. Also, it has high impact. My question.
Thanks, Dulit. So now I would go to Mr. Hettigoda and Dr. Rajapaksa. I think Mr. Hettigoda was referring to entrepreneurial habits in his preliminary remarks. Maybe you can start off with what you think would be some of the entrepreneurial habits for prospective entrepreneurs. And maybe I can get some similar thoughts from Dr. Rajapaksa as well as your concluding remarks. Mr. Hettigoda?
Okay, tell me. I didn't hear the question. Sorry.
No, you were referring to entrepreneurial habits
Yes.
in your preliminary opening remarks. Maybe you can give your concluding remarks for today's panel discussion on what are some of those entrepreneurial habits that you have come across and give some parting advice to prospective entrepreneurs.
Okay, I think I will certainly have to go back to not necessarily my experiences, but I have seen what my father went through. And some of the habits are specifically, as Dr. Rajapaksa said, time is an irrelevant factor. When you wanted to do something, what was relevant was to finish it. Whether it's 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, it's irrelevant. Number two, when you fail, most people will get disheartened. For entrepreneur, it's like what Edison did when he failed 20,000 times. Somebody asked what happened. I know now the bulb doesn't work this way 20,000 times. So entrepreneurs don't get discouraged. They are encouraged when you fail. They think there is a better way of doing it. Second, as Dr. Rajapaksa said, your family and the business must be separated. Now, this is a big mistake that most entrepreneurs do, is that your whatever the earnings and all that are now interwoven with your family expenditure. Entrepreneurs try to keep it separate in a small book. My dad kept a small book. His business income was separate. He wrote very clear notes. Exactly, I made 5 rupees. My bus fare was 50 cents. I did not have lunch. Daily books were maintained. So entrepreneur habits should be that you must keep track of your expenditure. Another good trait of an entrepreneur is, as Suresh mentioned, when you collaborate, you need to recognize talent, because sometimes the path that you go, you need supporters, and you need to recognize in your team who has similar traits. So doing that is sometimes very difficult, because sometimes maybe you have your family members are also in your team, but you want to recognize somebody outside, because that is the talent. So entrepreneurs actually do that. They don't restrict themselves to a particular group or family member or whatever. They look at talent as talent. Then another thing that my father really looked at was risk. To many, doing things differently was risky. To him, it was normal. He didn't look at risk. So these are, I mean, there are too many to mention, but if you really look at these few things, and for some of them may not be relevant to each and every entrepreneur, but a combination of these traits will certainly make an entrepreneur different from an average business person. And entrepreneurs are people who are thinking even while in sleep. They get up in the morning with whatever, they go to sleep with a problem, they get up in the morning with a solution. They come to office, I resolved it. These are entrepreneurs. They to them, now I know that when we lived abroad, my father could not visit us for more than 3 days for a holiday. Why do I need to be on holiday? And sometimes he's flying from here to US or to UK, 3 days, 4 days maximum. And to him, holiday was working. So, I mean, these are some of the traits I think may be different from others, but entrepreneurs are, should I say, a different type of people. And what my father went through, maybe Dr. Rajapaksa's father did not go through. But when you really listen to all these speakers, they are all very similar, and it's probably similar around the world. I have also attended many international fora for entrepreneurship, family business, and you mentioned that maybe Sri Lanka has these problems. No, it's honestly around the world. I've attended seminars in the US and Europe about family business, entrepreneurship. They're exactly the same. There's really no difference between a Sri Lankan entrepreneur and a European or American entrepreneur, or how the problems, how an entrepreneur in a family business starts working out. They're exactly very similar, except in Sri Lanka, entrepreneurs are not recognized. They are looked at, should I say, pariahs of the society. They are looked at Velanda Mahathya, Mudalali Mahathya. They are not given the due recognition, whereas in other countries, they are recognized. So many today in Sri Lanka, maybe people want to become entrepreneur, but that's why I don't think it's working out. Sri Lanka has the lowest number of entrepreneurs in all of South Asia, because it is not recognized. It's only a few who have break that ceiling. Now women have this glass ceiling. I think entrepreneurs have a much lower ceiling. Glass ceiling is way up there. Entrepreneurs have like a I think 2-3 feet ceiling where they cannot get anywhere. Even if you go to a bank, entrepreneur is somebody where you why are you doing that? So here the traits are denigrated. You know, just because you are trying to do something, no one recognizes it. So I think Dr. Rajapaksa can give more information. That's my
Sure.
parting note.
Thank you, Mr. Ettigoda. Dr. Rajapaksa, maybe a quick concluding remark.
Yeah, I think Mr. Asoka Tigoda mentioned many things, saying that you have to separate the family and the business. As far as the finances are concerned, family and business must be totally separated. That is very, very important advice that he has given. At the same time, I also mentioned, since our business is the third generation, we must know how to handle the business to the second generation. I had taken over from the first generation. Now you must handle the business for the second generation or the third generation. We must understand that we don't own the business. We have taken the business from the first generation on lease. You have to develop it and hand over to the third generation. That is the principle that we follow. If you think you are the owner of business, you are wrong. You are only a custodian of the business. You must develop the business and hand over the third generation. And third generation, few third generation business are existing in Sri Lanka right now, because first generation build the business, second generation enjoys it, third generation destroys it. That's the principle that being followed now. But only thing is, there's a responsibility on the first generation itself to properly hand it over to the second generation. You can't hand over the business to second generation with a lot of debts. Then it's a mistake of the first generation. So therefore, in our case, we handed over the third generation in a proper way. We had a function and we had it over so that they can run the business, because it's the third generation who can develop the business. First generation, as you all have mentioned, there's no capital. You have to find out the capital. Second generation gets the opportunity of developing the business because the capital already has been built up. The third generation has to improve it further. What happens is in Sri Lanka and even other companies, even in the world, the third situation, very few companies are existing on the third generation. So that is done. And another thing is, in the business empire, you must always consider Sigalova the Sutra, where you have to have the revenue divided to 4 sectors, as in Sigalova the Sutra. And also there are 4 stakeholders: the suppliers, the customers, then the human resources, and also the environment. That's also you have to take into consideration. You can't just forget about the environment. You must see that you are given something to the environment as well. If you have to consider all those 4 when you are running a business. Even if I can remember when we had our hydro plant in a remote village, I told my people, we take water and everything from the remote village. We must give back something to the remote village because we generate power. The village doesn't get anything, but still for all, it is our bound responsibility to see that the village is also looked after by some way or other. Otherwise, you will not be able to run the business there, because they might have all the problems coming up. So therefore, as a business, it is our responsibility to look after the environment as well as the society. This is very, very important, because many people try to see that only the profit is taken in consideration without taking the environment. We must, when your company is working with a certain number of workers, there are a lot of outsiders who can't enter into the company. You must look after them also. Even at least, if you can't do anything, at least once a year, see that you give a gift parcel to them so that they will be happy. Otherwise, they will look after the company and say, we are residing near the factory, but we don't get anything out of it. We must look after them as well. So that is how a company can sustain and develop. And this is what I mentioned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rajapaksa. So we got a few more concluding remarks required. So I'll go to Achala and Mrs. Veerakon, considering that we need to encourage more female entrepreneurs, and women empowerment is a very, very important area. Sri Lanka has been moving in the positive direction there. But from a cultural perspective, there are some of the challenges that traditionally Sri Lankan women have to encounter when they get into entrepreneurship, or for that matter, even to do a job. Maybe if you can give a few inspiring advice to prospective female entrepreneurs based on your own experience as concluding remarks, that would be much appreciated. Maybe I'll start off with you, Achala.
Yeah, actually, when it's come to women entrepreneurship, I would say overall, when we talk about entrepreneurship, women are the best. Women are the majority who represent entrepreneurship when it's come to small SME sector. So even when we talk about, start a new thing, women are the one who quickly come and ask so many questions. So, I mean, even I am also as a women entrepreneur, it is, not easy comparing with men, I know. we have so many roles to play, mother's role, and then the, family, and then, so many other roles. So it's okay, I mean, even, I mean, always as a woman entrepreneur, I would remind my family and my people around me, they always help me to, go beyond and achieve my dream. So as a woman, it's okay. You have so much of energy. You have multitasking, mindset. So many women can do so many things. Even how people talk about the Sri Lankan economy, women are the one who giving so much of contribution to it. So then, the starting your own journey, own entrepreneurial journey is not easy thing. When we are raising a child, the same thing we do for the business. I always I talk about Good Markets, my first child. I take care it as my baby. We always dreaming it, we always talking about it, we always planning it. So then it's okay. You think about where you good at, how you can do things, and then you think about your business idea or your dream is really finding a solution for market gap. So find out where the gaps are, then tap into it, and then try to solve a problem through innovative way. And if you want some support, you can talk to us, and there are so many people out there, you can talk to them and get experience and plan one by one, very small. Maybe take a baby step, don't think about much bigger step, don't think about fancy stuff. It's okay, you don't need to be a very big boss and we are in a very fancy office. It's okay to have start in a small scale and try to do it in a baby steps and develop it, and also live with it, dream it. So then definitely you will be able to be a good entrepreneur. So main thing actually, when it go to the quickly, I will finish it. When you really think about it, when you are in Colombo, I know you have so much of resources, you can actually come and get. But when you go to Colombo, out of Colombo, it's very hard for you to connect. But there are some online things, online resources are there. Try to work with, even Samadhani mentioned about sponsor services. There are so many things out there. Now this is the time for entrepreneurs to come out and do things. Talk to us. We are there to support you. Do it. Don't even just think about and planning and overwhelming it. Just come and do it.
Fantastic words of advice, Achala. Mrs. Virakon, would you like to quickly touch on that area?
Yes, what I can say for a woman entrepreneur, there is no restriction where the society is concerned. She can equally work as with the men. There is no restriction. Only when it comes to, as Achala said, the family, you have to raise a family, and then you have to develop a business, and you have to juggle through that. But you should have a proper time management and proper planning, which you can do all together without neglecting either the family nor the business. And entrepreneur, this is general for entrepreneur, should have a vision, and you have to work towards the vision, and you have to be determined and be perseverant. So these are the factors that create a proper entrepreneur. And also the entrepreneur should be a dreamer. You can dream what you want to do, innovate, and then start on it. It will be difficult at the beginning, but if you work hard towards it, you can reach the goal. So I advise all the small SMEs that they should have a goal, set a goal, and then work towards it through their sheer determination and perseverance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Virakon. So finally, last but not the least, very quickly to Suresh and Mrs. Kirivardhaniya, maybe your quick concluding remarks. We start with Mrs. Kirivardhaniya.
Okay, I think as a concluding remark, I would like to say that, considering the kind of time and the economy that we are in as a country, this is probably the time for the entrepreneur and also the time for the cooperator. So I think we should not get trapped by thinking that really small people with small businesses will have enough time in the market to go along a journey of 2 or 3 decades to make a bigger business. Because considering the economic challenges and the environmental challenges, I think we have to all get together and make a proper business community with good entrepreneurship. So I would invite all of us, including the panelists and the listening, new entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs, to think and develop. We definitely have to dream, but let's dream one dream. That is to have a better and more, stable and more financially solid and environmentally sustainable Sri Lanka. So for that to happen, I think this is the time for supply chains to work together. This is the time for the IT people to work with the SMEs. This is the time for you to understand what a cooperative enterprise really is, rather than looking at a cooperative and thinking this is a old model. World is looking for cooperative models. And Sri Lanka can position ourselves as one entire cooperative country. One entire model working in synergy to make this country better. For that to happen, I think if you are in any enterprise and you are having a vision to make export business, look at other people who are doing similar things and try to see whether you can develop a synergy. There are IT industries and platforms who will support you so that you can make it a bigger business. I can only tell just to show you that this is not, just talk only. Like, just take a look at the tea industry and then look at the pepper industry. Like, there are small scale pepper growers who are visioning to export pepper. But if we all can get together and learn from each other and make a Sri Lankan pepper brand, right? And present ourselves in that kind of a way, I think there are enough and more dollar businesses for all of us. In the same way, the local traditional rice. You can look at many things in Sri Lanka. I heard somebody saying, what do Sri Lanka have? We don't have anything that can be scaled up. We can scale our efforts together. Then it is a bigger business. Sanasa, the story behind Sanasa is that we are seeing big. I am presenting today because I don't have any money with me. My brand doesn't give me personal money, but I am talking as a big brand because large number of people, about 1 million people have created this brand together. So we are a big brand. In the same way, we can create the Sri Lankan brand. So I invite all of you to dream, but don't get trapped in the microfinance type of dream, like expecting somebody to solve your problem, expecting somebody to support you, to nurture you, to take you. You decide your journey, but link that journey with Sri Lankan enterprise journey. So let's work together. And in Sanasa, there are two things that I like to share with all of you. There is we have already started a value chain development support process. And in fact, the GAP certificate for the pepper industry, now the Agriculture Ministry is introducing, which was a pilot that we piloted through this project, which is now available for anybody who is doing, organic or good agriculture practice pepper. So in the same way, we can pick many other things. There is a place where you can come if you are into agriculture enterprises, and if you are a small scale business, talk to us, because there is a center that is established by Sanasa to support small enterprises, linking them with the supplier. So if you are a big supplier, also talk to us, because we have a cooperative model and a business that can be plugged into a supply chain. And also, if you are into small businesses and you are having your finances that need to be assisted, there is another service that we have recently launched, which I will be talking later probably, where we are supporting you to get your business into a financially healthy model, which are two things that you need to really be mindful of. Make sure that you are connected with the market process. Make sure your finances are steady, and have a dream. Make that dream connected to Sri Lankan dream, and let's make the country stronger.
Thank you, Mrs. Kirvardhania, for those concluding remarks. Suresh, very quickly, would you like to add a word or two?
Yes, I thank you, Nirmal. I'd be failing in my duty if I didn't talk about Global Entrepreneurship Network, and hope that everybody goes into that website. I cannot explain all the resources that are available, because there are global entrepreneurship networks all over the world in many countries. Global Entrepreneurship Week has been celebrated in over 180 countries this year. So there, all that information, including this recording of this, will be on that website, and we will be there is so much information. There is even a site that has COVID-19 resources. And I encourage everybody to just go to genglobal.org, and you can, diverge into all kinds of areas of fantastic entrepreneurial activity. And it's really a global activity. And Global Entrepreneurship Network Sri Lanka, one of my visions is to translate some of these relevant information resources into Sinhala and Tamil. And that would be a dream if we can do a website with summarized information, focused on areas that might be interesting for Sri Lankan entrepreneurs and startups. And Nirmal is on the board with us and Global Entrepreneurship Network, and I encourage everybody to collaborate. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Suresh. So what a fantastic end to a very important topic that was discussed, organized by CMA and CPM to coincide with Global Entrepreneurship Week. So today we discussed about entrepreneurship successes and lessons for innovators, job creators, startups, and small business growth. I, in particular, learned a hell of a lot from these wonderful personalities who probably achieved the zenith of their own journey, their careers. And in essence, this is almost like a mini MBA or a mini entrepreneurship certificate type of a course, just listening to these people. At the peak of today's attendance, we had more than 216 people join through the registered link, and many, many more on the live stream. So it's been a fantastic. I sincerely thank everybody once again for spending exactly half a day today of your busy schedule on a Monday and accepting the invitation by the organizers. Thank you very much to Professor Vatawala for extending me an invitation to be the moderator today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much to everybody who participated today, either through the registered link or through the social media handle. Over to you, Professor Vatawala.
Thank you. Can I ask everyone to unmute, because they need to take a photograph with everyone. If you all can unmute your videos, that will be, so that we can take a photograph of all who are there. Achala. Okay, fine. I think.
Wait.
Right. I think they will would have
Wait,
taken the.
wait, sir.
Okay.
Wait, sir. Only one, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. So let me thank all of you all for actually the Global Entrepreneurship Week. We have celebrated in a very, very fitting manner, because I must thank our moderator, Dr. Nirmal. I think you have done an excellent job. And all those who participated, because first of all, I must thank you for kindly accepting our invitation, because today I think we have the cream of entrepreneurs, because we have heard a lot of areas, maybe from the business side, from the social side, and this really shows that what sort of capabilities are there. And Also, I am very proud that all those who are present here are all successful entrepreneurs. Now, that's the most important thing. I think Sri Lanka can be proud that we are having such wonderful people who have maybe starting from their youths, like what Harsha mentioned, from school days. I am sure Dulit is also from the same area, from the school days, and then Suranga going into tea, which is a very, very competitive business, and the value addition that they are making. So it's been a fantastic session. And from the numbers present, I think there were about 222, the total count that I took at that time. Entrepreneurship is something that is very, very popular, but they should know that it's not like something like politics, where you get into politics and maybe someone might think that that might be the best entrepreneurship challenge one would have, but each one has their own way, because there is no standard way, but you can tell them the way as to how it could be done. I think that's what you all have done, and if they follow what you have said, I'm sure that they will be able to reach their goals and successes. We also had maybe the older the businesses that were there. So I'm thank Mr. Asoka Hettigoda and Dr. Kulatunga Rajapaksa, then the new ones, then also the medium ones like Samadhani was there. I'm also happy because both Asoka's father and Samadhani's father were on the board when I was chairman of the People's Bank, and I know that the cooperative movement was one that built the People's Bank, and also they were really servicing them. So that's how things have improved and things have been built over a period of time. And I think Mr. Kirivandenia was a very, very exceptional person, and he's built his son as a name, which I'm sure we must congratulate him and are proud of his achievement, and also to have such a proud member on my board. And of course, Siddha Lepa, that's also a household name. And also my close links with Dr. Rajapaksa, because when I was chairman of the Ceylon Leather Products Corporation, as he mentioned, that the leader in the footwear industry was Bata. And they were all buying the leather from the leather corporation. And later we found how they overtook the multinational. So I think this is a very, very clear picture, and maybe the sheer determination, they are working together, how they really achieve this. So I think this is a very, very big achievement from our side. And of course, if you look at Dulit, I think he's gone the world over, and the leader in the field of e-commerce, Harsha, I think you have brought the single alphabet, and then thereafter gone into very, very many fields. And of course, Suranga, the best product that you can give is on the tea, and the competition, the value addition you have done, and also what you mentioned with the COVID, the change that took place in the auction system. You see, actually, as a result of that, the Ceylon Chamber is losing all their income, because they were doing it there for centuries, where the auction was conducted. And that was really something that when even foreigners and others come, where we used to take them to show the conduct of the auction. So finally, I think, Suresh, let me thank you, because you have been really involved in this area. I know you're very much committed in this sector for the entrepreneurial development. Today we saw the big advertisement or the notice that you had put in the papers. Of course, we had one, maybe it was a free one. I don't know whether you would have paid for it, but I'm sure today we had a very, very good cause. Of course, Ramya is there. Yeah. She was telling us to how she got the, maybe I was able to give her the location close to her hometown in Kurunegala to start the garment factory. So I'm indeed very happy that these are achievements that maybe we have been able to make the garment industry the biggest exporter, and the 200 garment factories was one that really made it happen. And Achala on the good market, where people can bring their produce and then sell it. So actually we have had a very wide mix of entrepreneurs, and those who have really contributed a great deal to the economy of this country. So I'm sure I'm very happy that they have been able to get all of them onto one stage, and what you have contributed is really amazing and fantastic. So let me once again thank all of you and all our participants. I think our time was 5, but then as you know, when the time passes, a lot of them have to slip by, and also maybe 5 o'clock, a lot of them run home. So still we have a large number who are there, but time is a real problem in case of seminars and conferences, but we have to carry on, and I must thank all of you, because I'm sure we would have to give you much more time, because I know that Zulit and maybe the others who are here would have liked to speak much more on what they have done, and but today they really gave the crux of what this entrepreneurship is and the good lessons to all our people. So let me once again thank all of you and all our participants for the cooperation and assistance that was given, and also our CMA staff, especially Ms. Shanti, who has done an extremely good job, and on our technical side, Tarindu, who has been helping. And we do hope that we will be able to do much more of this, because today the technology has really helped us. So thank you, and we keep in touch, and let's see to make the Global Entrepreneurship Week a grand success. Thank you.